Look at that. It's all sized and perfect from last time.
Yeah, I'm just going to fix mine as well.
And just give me a second. I'm going to go to my channel and test out the audio levels. Give me a moment.
Yeah.
Okay, this might be good.
Yeah, I'm doing some live fixing here.
Okay, this might be good.
Yeah, I'm doing some live fixing.
Alright, should be good. And
Alright, I need to go to your stream as well. Okay, just going to capture your face as well. Let's update my own channel here. And yeah, that should be fine now.
very good.
Can you talk a little bit just to see where your audio levels are?
Sure. Everybody in my house has been sick, unfortunately. So I've been having to keep my distance and just try to be available when I can.
Yeah, that's the thing when family gets sick and everything. So yeah, we should be ready. I just want to go and grab a cup of coffee.
Sure.
You will still be able to talk with me, but my stream won't be hearing me.
Oh, very good. So that means you are live then?
Yeah, I'm live.
Okay. I'm live as well. I got my chat up and it was actually tough for me to even read my own chat last time because I was talking quite a bit.
Yeah, I usually have the same problem. Especially in these small bursts of questions, because sometimes people can ask no questions, then all of a sudden like 3 to 4 people are talking.
Yep. We covered a lot of material last time too.
Coffee making sounds. And here we are back again.
You have coffee now, just like that?
Yeah, I have one of these capsule machines.
Nice, just like
So
the astronauts use.
yeah, exactly. Spaceman.
Yeah, space coffee, huh?
Yeah, the best coffee in the universe.
That's right.
Uh, so yeah, we talked a little bit last time, like for over 3 hours,
We did, yes.
and yeah, just a recap. We talked about like gaming mechanics, RNG. Yeah, a lot about games. Then we talked a little bit of your controversy with praise, yeah, your team here on Twitch. And then we finished off really quickly with this controversy about you paying for hosts, and that's basically how far we got.
Yeah, that sounds like a good summary. Yeah, we spent most of our time talking about games, which is, of course, my the primary means or reason for using the Twitch platform. That's how I got started with it. It was watching other people play Donkey Kong and showing other people me playing Donkey Kong. So that was my first real introduction to the Twitch platform was through the I guess you can call them Donkey Kong community, people who are interested in playing Donkey Kong. So a lot of people still connect and stuff and do that on Twitch. A lot of them, so some connect through the Donkey Kong forum website. They have chat there and they have forum threads where they talk to each other and stay connected. But Twitch is where they would move from longer discussions to actually watching somebody do attempts, and so eventually I focused on the actual gaming content and took more of a back seat in chat. It was interesting getting started on Twitch, to be honest, because everybody had this lingo that they would use in the Twitch chat. People would use like, I didn't know what kappa meant for like 2 years. People would use it, and I'm like,
Same here.
like, what is this? What does this mean? So yeah, learning what all the different emotes actually meant, when to properly apply them, all of the shorthand that people use, like, to be honest, just all kinds of shorthand. I had no idea what those were. I was always asking, what does this mean? What does that mean? And it took time. It was like culture of its own, and that I wasn't used to, the short texting lingo and all of that. So it certainly wasn't something that I was used to, but I had to become oriented to it, and that took a process, of course.
Yeah, I'm probably the same way. I did not understand any of these like kappas and TBH, and I still don't think I understand like 3 head, 5 head, and stuff like that. I just pretend I do.
Sure.
But I did watch one. You did get a kill screen on Donkey Kong Jr. the other day, right?
Yes. So
What I did notice was that your score was a little low. Was that because the execution wasn't perfect? You maybe were just trying to get to the kill screen as practice, or?
Correct. So when you just run boards with like Donkey Kong or Donkey Kong Jr., the game is only going to take about anywhere from an hour 10 to hour and a half. But if you full point press, you're looking at anywhere from 3 hours and 15 minutes to 3 hours and 30 minutes before you hit the kill screen. So you're milking every board for every point opportunity that you can possibly get. Try to get as many smashes with your fruits. Just do everything and anything to get as much points as possible. Leave the board with like no bonus left, because as long as you can net more points doing stuff throughout the level, you don't have, it's always better to do that than to just take the bonus. So when I'm just going through these boards really quickly, the main purpose is to practice those boards that once you've maximized everything on it, like the second of the 4 boards, the one with the birds that fly down in the arcade version. Well,
yeah, that one looked really hard.
Yeah, it's really tight execution. I'm looking at pixel locations where Junior is. I'm buffering my movements to ensure that I'm not losing frames in between movements, so I can hit the fruit to hit the first bird at approximately the right time. And it gets pretty technical because I can't just move up to a waiting point and then go. My flow of movement needs to be steady even before I hit the fruit to hit that bird, because my movement upward, holding up, actually manipulates this bird in the sequence. And that's important because it enables me to get up to the top faster to set up the next fruit smash. And also when you end up doing the board differently, so if a bird normally comes out on the very top and goes across the screen versus some of them respond to your inputs. So you have to do the board at certain places at certain times so that you're holding the right inputs, so you get the right manipulation on the birds so that the birds can come down more before they take a left, which means that they stay on the level, the board, the screen longer. And that's important because there's a 5 bird limitation, and when the 5th bird is released after one goes off the screen is in relation to when the previous one went out, so it can continue to keep the max amount of enemies on the board to threaten your life. So there's actually a lot to that board, and you're actually speedrunning the board as well. You actually want to get to the very top as quickly as possible, which you can do by doing at least one bird smash with the fruits that aren't on the top, and then the fruit that's on the very top, you can set up a 3 smash, which is significant because you get more points. Like your first smash is only 800, your second is 1200, and your third is 1600, as long as it's the same fruit. So you want to get those 3 smashes. So once you get those 5 smashes throughout the whole board, it's all about just finishing it as quickly as you possibly can. So part of my running boards was to, just get to that board so I can practice it over and over again. Because that jump up at the beginning, that allows me to maximize the bonus, get as much points at the top as I possibly can, relies upon really tight execution. That springboard, for example, will only spring you up to do that quickly, to do that pattern. There's a 10 frame window where you have to do your jump input. And what's crazy is that every other frame is dead. So not only is it a 10 frame window, you have to initiate a button press on one of the 5 alternating frames that actually works. So you have to kind of rapidly press the arcade button. I guess you can like slide your finger down like in a more of a track and field kind of setup, or you can just rapidly hit the button, or you can try to do quick 2 inputs within the 10 frame window once you've identified where it's at. Because if you hit one of the dead frames, you're not going to jump up. So you have to reset, and then you have to do it over and over again. I missed it 8 times in a row during that run. Meaning that I would jump on the spring, I'd rapidly hit the jump button, it would not work, and then I would have to try it again. And I did that 8 times in a row, and I barely made it to the top. So it's the most execution heavy level, and despite the fact that it looks the same every time, that's only because I'm forcing it to look the same every single time, because I'm doing the right movements at the right times for when the birds come down, so they're influenced the same way each time. Because some birds can't be influenced, some can be influenced with any input, some can only be influenced by left and right, they're only influenced by your vertical position. So it doesn't matter what input you're doing, it's where you are located. It's gonna aim and it's gonna drop just low enough so that it's gonna come right for you. So those trackers, I went through and I documented all of those in the past and analyzed the pattern, what can influence the pattern, what can bring it back to the main line, all of that stuff. I wrote a very lengthy article about exactly how that stage functions. It's an article on the Donkey Kong forum. But yeah, it's really technical, so I just wanted to practice the board over and over again. Same thing with the blue chains. It's mainly a pattern, but you have to know when not to push. You know, you do need to be aggressive so you can finish the board as quickly as possible, but you also need to know when you need to be cautious. Especially when you get, like yesterday, I had a wall of just red snappers come down, you know, which happens when each of the red snappers get to the top of a respective chain right above you, and they all decide to come down different chains at the same time. So you're kind of stuck with, you know, do I have to drop down before I can move over? And when I do move over, I got to move over like 4 chains to get out of the way. And you could have like a whole bunch of birds like above you and below you, and you're trying to figure out exactly what you want to do. So you don't want to be overly aggressive, because you need to make sure you can survive against those kinds of situations, which are more or less RNG based. But those are the 2 stages I wanted to practice as much as I possibly could. So I basically ran the other 2 boards, because unlike the springboard and the blue chains, the level or the screens 2 and 4, the jungle board and the Mario's hideout, you stay there until the bonus hits 0. You basically milk those boards, and basically it takes about 5 minutes of jumping sparks and aiming for quad smashes on Mario's hideout. So basically just think there's like 20 some levels, so you get what, 19 hideouts, and each of them, well, let's say there's 20, so you're spending 5 minutes per each. That's a whole hour of doing nothing but just milking sparks on Mario's hideout of your whole 3 hour and some run. You know, your other hour is spent on the jungle board. Your other hour and a half is basically just getting through the other 2 as quickly as you possibly can. So now that I've worked on that and I've survived and tried to get those, now I have to focus on the jungle and the hideout. Spend 5 minutes on those boards every time and just try to milk them. Welcome in, Dragon Soul.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting, because it's like speed running is always like getting to the end as fast as possible. But when going for a high score, you really gotta think about like, how can I maximize my point gain instead. And sure, that might come in focus on some speed runs where you maybe gotta level up or something, and you do kind of the same thing there. But really, it's a completely different experience. But one thing, could you practice these things on emulator, or is it way too much of a difference to actually play on an arcade machine? Because I know that for me, I don't think it's that big of a difference between an NES and an emulator to play on. But an arcade feels like a bigger step between.
Well, with arcade playing versus playing an NES controller, I mean, your left hand is moving the character and your right hand is initiating inputs. So that's
I didn't think about that.
So, but like if you're, when I do practice on emulator. I fine tune my approach, and then I get used to the controls and timing with the arcade screen because it's bigger. Like when I play, the screen is like this big on my laptop, but when I play on the monitor, I mean it's like this. So I need to double check visual cues because I use visual cues for things. And with MAME, for example, I'm using not only using my right hand, but I'm using the arrows, and I can sometimes go so fast where I may even have two inputs in at the same time, which makes my transition from up to moving right rather quickly, and so on and so forth. But with the 4-wave restrictor plate on the control panel, you have to move a greater distance from up and down. It's not going to be a matter of just a quick movement of fingers like this. It's going to be moving up and then quickly moving down, almost like a jerk, a quick spaz-like jerk to get as much of an instant adjustment from an up to a down input as you possibly can. So there is a big difference with that. There is a correlation, though. There is some overlap between press pointing for high scores and speed running. Like, for example, when I was going for point performances on Castlevania, there are certain spots in the levels where you can net the most amount of points from, like a particular trick, like throwing holy water at the ghouls, or it's maybe using the crosses with the respawning knights, or it might be hitting fireballs and Medusa head spawns. There's these particular spots where you want to maximize the amount of time that you spend doing those things, right? Before you finish the level. So you want to get to that spot as quickly as possible. So you're basically speed running the level as quickly as you possibly can to the point pressing location. Do your point pressing for as long as you can. Even risk doing it a little too long where you end up not getting the orb, like with the mummy fight in stage 3, where what you want to do is point press as much as you can, and then what happens is that, okay, well, I got 20 seconds left. I need to go. I need to leave the point pressing location, and I need to go and kill the mummies, and hopefully I can kill them fast enough to get the orb before the time runs out and I end up dying. So there's that risk factor of how long can I stay there and still complete the level, and speed running to get there. And I think that there's an overlap there, right? To be able to do everything else as quick as possible, so I can spend the most amount of time doing the point pressing.
Yeah. Are there any are there? I know high score is standard in arcade, but are there people that are actually running high score games on NES games? I know Tetris is one where you go for a high score, but are there any other games?
Yeah, so Tetris with their max out isn't the only sort of NES game where people have gone for points. I've gone for point performances on different games, and a lot of that stuff was done along with some early speedrunning. Now I think the points probably came first in terms of well, I take that back. There's always been like a speedrunning element to things. Even in the point pressing, like I said, you got to get to the point pressing location as quickly as possible. You need to farm hearts as quickly as possible so that I can, have the ammo that I need for what I need to do. But yes, for NES games that actually have points to them, NES Castlevania, people have done that, but that's too easy. When I was doing my marathon run on that, I basically just got to a spot and just killed myself off. Same thing with the 5-man rule, where you can only die 5 times and then you game over. At some point, it's been like 5 hours and I've just been looping this game over and over again. and I could do it for however long. I mean, it basically turns into a nibbler attempt, where you just sit there and like the high score is like 4 days from now. You just or Cubert. It's the same sort of thing. It turns into how long can I stay awake and continue to do this stuff. Those scores have never really appealed to me. A lot of NES games tend to be like that because they do loop and they do allow you to continue to press for points. Spelunkers like that. But there are games that do have a kind of end to them. Kind of like a kill screen sort where it's not looping. I think NES Double Dragon works that way. And that actually gets a little more technical because there's a headbutt glitch where you go to, you get the most amount of points for your headbutts. But if your score ends in 900 and you do a headbutt, instead of giving you 900 points, it just drops you down to none. So you actually lose points. So you have to strategically watch it. And as soon as you see it hits 900, you have to do like a kick in there. And then you just have to make it so that there isn't a 9 in that slot. But also keep the guys alive for as long as possible. So if you can go over there and to do a headbutt and just keep doing it, right? So you can get as much as you can. So there are max out strategies that avoid the loss of points. My point performance doesn't, but nobody really cares about point performance on NES Double Dragon. So as far as I know, I still have the high score on it right now.
Are glitches allowed when you're going for a high score as well? Because I'm thinking Double Dragon has this glitch in the second stage where you can get a phantom enemy which you can get infinity points from, basically.
Sure. Traditionally, Twin Galaxy basically established a kind of spirit of the game concept where to play the game as it was designed to be played. So, for instance, in Castlevania, before things developed a little bit more in speedrunning, the people basically totally disregarded any of the leaderboards for Castlevania on for speedrunning for Castlevania a long time ago. Everybody goes to speedrun.com for that now, but they had a rule where you couldn't do the cave skip, so you couldn't boost on the bat and walk on the top. You had to go underneath, where the fishmen are, because that's what was intended. Same thing with the bat boost in the very beginning. Instead of going down where the fishmen are in the water and then come back up, we can do the frame perfect watch trick and do the boost over to the right on the bat. Since that wasn't intended, the route that you had to take for speedrunning had to do that. You also had to take all the stairs, so you couldn't take boosts up through floors. The early speedruns that were posted on there definitely ran that way, and basically I think people like Tom Vodova and others who wrote a lot of the early rules for NES games, a pioneer for us both in point performances and speedruns, really way ahead of his time, to be honest. He did extraordinarily well without some of the tools that we have to understand games today, which is very, very impressive. But yeah, so they were governed more by the spirit of the game. They were governed by design intent. So no zips, glitches, clips, and anything that visually is seen as unintended. It happened to have worked, but there's a staircase there. So it doesn't matter if you could damage boost onto up there and skip the whole walking animation up the stairs. There's stairs there. That's what's intended. So that was what was required for a person to do. Even if it was slower.
Yeah, it kind of, I understand why they did that, but also it must have been really hard sometimes, like when you found a damage boost to not use it because the game was programmed with knockback. So why wasn't you allowed to use it? I can understand people would get really confused by like getting their runs denied just because they took damage and got knocked up to a place,
Or
which
worse,
the game is programmed to do, but
right?
because there are stairs, you're not allowed to, basically.
Or worse, if you accidentally did it. And then there's the question of, well, you know, can we allow accidents? And then how can you be sure it wasn't intended, even if you made it look like an accident? There's a lot of questions. So I think that's one. You know, I think the any percent category, you know, became so popular because it allowed for a new layer of ingenuity of beating it at, you know, any cost, would still raise questions of, well, if I can within like 30 seconds of the game clip into a wall and warp to the end credits, did I beat the game? You know, does that really constitute as an any percent at that? Like, I didn't beat the final boss, I didn't even go through the game. You know, does that even constitute as like an actual speed run, or is it just, well, how fast can you glitch to the credits? You know, what really constitutes beating the game? You know, it opened a whole new world of asking questions, and hence all the different categories that we have, of course, right?
Yeah, and then like it's one thing when you have a big organization like Twin Galaxy. They basically had to get a standardized rule for all the games, but in today's speedrunning community, there isn't just a speedrun community. We have the Super Mario Brother community, the Mega Man community. They can kind of decide, okay, these categories exist. You're allowed to beat the game this way or that way. Like in Mega Man 1, they have the Ace category, which people might think is the any percent category because you credit warp, basically with the use of 2 controllers, and just you basically edit the RAM values to credit warp to the end. But they still have the any percent be any percent all stages, because there's another glitch where you can manipulate during stages to clear stages without clearing stages. So I think it was probably the right decision from Twin Galaxy to set like a standardized rules. But today, when there's every community have their own experts, their own moderators, they can kind of decide what's okay and what's not. And of course, categories will change over time as well. Like what is allowed, what isn't allowed.
Yeah, not only that, I think something ends up happening to people as well. Let's say you have people who are running. Well, I'm going to use my own experience because it's easy, but me, Ray, and Cantaloupe May were trading the world record back and forth early on with Nightmare on Elm Street, and all of a sudden somebody found that you can do this glitch where you run up to a pixel, you run to the left, and then you run to the right, and it'll bypass one of the refights because there's a boss rush at the end before you fight Freddy. And so basically anybody who had basically did a speed run on that game from the time that the game was released all the way until just until that one particular issue was found, the way you did a speed run on the game basically felt like we went through the whole game. There really wasn't anything that seemed like a glitch or something that wasn't intended that was involved in it. Everything, it just felt like the game. And so it was basically us versus the game, and developing the skill for the boss rush. And there was something about that I actually enjoyed. But when that came out, I remember doing a run or two where, where you took all the skill that you had in trying to do the refights as quickly as possible, throw all that away. It's gone. You never need it again. And now all you have to do is do these pixel perfect maneuvers. You get like 4 of them or so, and that's it. So instead of having all these different strategies with these different fights that you did, it was just go up to this pixel, and it made it less fun for me.
Yeah.
So that changed the any percent, but they never created a kind of all bosses or glitchless category. Like the way it was ran for forever, it never had its own kind of legacy track. And I'm not saying that every single time a new glitch comes out you have to do that, but it changes the dynamic of the game that had lasted for 30 years or so. It's going to radically change the way that people feel about it. This happens sometimes when you have people running 70 stars on Super Mario Brothers or something like that. For 5 years people are running it this way, and then they find this new clip, and then it just breaks open this whole new thing, and then they're like, I have to, now this thing that took me so long to master, I gotta throw it out. Same thing happened with Jaws and any percent. Now the speedrun includes a death, which I don't like deaths. And just because I have more of a 1 credit completion kind of deathless kind of challenge in my head. That's the way I kind of look at it. Like, hey, I beat this game without dying. So sometimes even when the speed run included a death, I'll purposely do it slower. Just so that I don't die just for the deathless challenge. Because that kind of makes me feel like I beat the game, even though you're technically controlling the elements, even with your deaths and everything. There's no unintended deaths that are occurring. You're purposely doing it, so you don't have to feel bad about it. But because I did a lot of deathless challenges, it made me feel a little bit about it that way. But the bonus stage, bombing jellyfish from the airplane that goes back and forth, that's all gone. It no longer exists. There's no way of doing so I spent the most amount of time honing my skills for doing rapid inputs and doing slowdowns, speed ups, and avoiding doing it too quickly or too slow, and just maximizing, to get out of there as quick as possible to kill the jellyfish. And that is no longer part of the Jaws any percent speed run. Because you're not going to build the world record doing the previous route. But it doesn't really constitute its own kind of category anymore. Like having the bonus stage in there, having that part of the game involved isn't part of the speedrun anymore. And they don't have a list to really preserve that. So that kind of makes people feel differently about things. It just will. I did Jaws for 5 years, and it was always the same. You did the 2 encounters, you did the bonus stage, you did the 3rd encounter skip, and then everything else is fine with the submarine. So now there's no submarine, there's no bonus stage, and you die. That makes me feel differently about it. That doesn't mean I can't compete with the new stuff. Doesn't mean I can't learn the new things, but it does change the flow and feel of the experience that I used to have. If you were really good at the boss rush in a game like Mega Man, where you're going through all the bosses really quick and jumping from portal to portal really fast, and this was something that you could do better than anybody else. You were always 5 seconds ahead of the second place person. This was the key moment where you were able to capture, time saves over others in a competitive manner. And now Everybody can just skip it. So now it doesn't even matter if you were the best at that part. It doesn't matter at all. So nobody's going to, now on Jaws, nobody's going to compete unless they really want to, involving the bonus days, which was, for me, I loved the music. I loved the additional dynamic to it. It's something from my childhood that I like to have part of the game. I think other people have had similar experiences with other games. I don't have other people's examples to share.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think the closest to me is probably, and this isn't even like the gameplay changing anything, but I'm a old school F-Zero player, and for the original F-Zero game when you do like time attack on certain tracks, you gotta play through the earlier stages, and then you get like 3 to 4 lives to try and set your best possible time on that stage. But in like, I think it was like 2015, they started to allow the use of save states. So you could save before the race, so it could continue over and over again. And for me, that just ruined the whole experience for me, because like there are RNG elements in the game because you have traffic and such, so you can manipulate it by playing on the same save state every time, and just that whole thing ruined the game for me. And but then I think I've also been part of ruining games as well, because when I discover things like Shadow Blaster for Genesis, I found a skip that skipped like 50 seconds of the final stage, and in a newer F-Zero I developed most of the advanced texts that are used, and some people were very vocal that they didn't like how I found out some things. So I've been on both sides, where I've been on the receiving end of bad changes and be giving bad changes to a game.
And sometimes even good changes, like for any percent and stuff like that. It's all well and dandy. That's when I think that being sensitive to categories is important. Especially when you have a game where one glitch just came out in 20 years. That completely changed the dynamic of the game. Do we create a new leaderboard so people can compete using that one element? But when you have a game where people are coming up with stuff every year, and it's a very active and highly played game, and everybody's part of that journey, that feels a little bit differently to me. I know in like Ocarina of Time, lots of things have changed over the course of time. The 80%. I've seen a lot of the old stuff, and they were using older clips and this, that, and everything else. And I can get that, if a person ran that for a year, and then all of a sudden somebody found, a 15-second route that saved 15 seconds, that completely changed the entire dynamic of the game for you. And now it's like, well, now I don't get to do this and I don't get to do that. And I was really good with that, setup for subpixels, and I was really good at, and now that's not even there. And I think maybe it changes enough where it just doesn't feel the same to you. It's not like it's an objectively bad thing per se for like any percent to actually be any percent, but I think sometimes if a new category isn't created, then people's times aren't really being compared apples with oranges and under the conditions and the routes that people used. One of the things I actually like with the Super Metroid is they do have a location on the leaderboard to show what route was used. You can see which boss order that they did. And
yeah, that's actually really interesting.
Because then you could take a look at the leaderboard and you can say, well, who has the fastest time using this boss order? And then you can be like, well, that's really impressive. So if you see a new person trying to learn the most difficult boss order first, you can point, well, you know, number 15 did this easier one. And I mean, look, they're number 15. So why move to something more difficult unless you can, you know, master the small little mechanics in each of the rooms? You know?
Yeah, and also that's really good for a new speedrunner coming in that maybe don't want to go for the hardest trick. You can easily find, okay, how do I do this easy route instead of having to click into every video or every record and looking, what route did this person do? What route did this person do? Instead, you can just short it and see, okay, he has the best time with this route. I'm going to check what he did.
Yeah.
So I wish more leaderboards would do things like that. Like Mega Man with boss orders would be amazing if they did that, for example. Because Mega Man games usually has a really hard but fast Robot Master route and a slightly slower but a lot easier route.
Yeah, that's a good example too. You know, because if I wanted to learn the game, I might want to look at the fastest time that's using the other boss order, and instead of clicking on like 20, 30 different videos till you can find it, you know, it's listed right there on the leaderboard. You know, differentiating it from another. This happens also like if you really wanted to see what the fastest you know console time is on a game. You know, some leaderboard, you know, most leaderboards now I think have a where you indicate that whether you played it on emulator, and you can see it right on the leaderboard itself, listing whether or not it involved an emulator or not. Instead of having to click each of the videos and see if they happen to have a note that says that they used BizHawk or something.
Yeah, I think all the leaderboards I'm moderator of has that function where you see if it's emulator or not.
Yeah. So I know that some people are really concerned about clutter. Like, what if you're a new person, you've never played Super Metroid before, and you go to the leaderboard and there's like 20 different categories. There's stuff everywhere. All right. I mean, most people are probably going to look at the 80% or the 100% because these are pretty basic. I don't really get wrapped up in all the other stuff. Like it doesn't like if I looked at a leaderboard and I had like 50 categories, it wouldn't turn me off. You know, I would just look at the 80% and you know if I learned playing through it that hey I really like doing the all bosses. You know on NES Metroid for example, you could do that. You know if you wanted to do 100%, you can do that. You know there's Ice Beam only. There's all of these different things. And I think that perhaps for the games that are played more, where you have like close to 1,000 people on the leaderboard, you could have all those different ones. I mean, you have a world record for grabbing every coin or something in Super Mario Brothers. You know, there's speed run to a hard lock. You know, how fast can you hard lock the game from Power On or something, which sounds absolutely ridiculous. But I mean, that's almost like a quick credit warp in Adventures of Kirby. You know, it's the same sort of thing. It's just another way that you can mess around with the game, and I actually think having the variety of categories are there to freshen it up for the older, you know, people who've been playing it for a long time. I mean, the veterans, but also, but that should never. I don't see it as a turnoff. I don't see it as messy leaderboards in my own mind. I personally like detail. So the more information you put on the table, the better. Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of feeling sick about how the A Link to a Past leaderboard was looking when I first started speedrunning.
Mm-hmm.
Because that one has like a lot of categories, and some categories are like I think one category is get Master Sword, and then it's another category is like defeat Aghanim, which is basically exactly the same route as Master Sword, but you play like 10 extra minutes of game. And and it it just felt so stupid to why have two different categories that are the same, just 10 minutes longer, because you don't skip any other items or anything. But recently I've been like, well, if people really want to speedrun those categories, let them speedrun it. It's kind of like when people were complaining when randomizer started to get big and asking why people had timers, because it's a randomizer, you can't run a randomizer, and I'm like now I'm like,
You can.
well, if people wanna speedrun a randomizer, let them speedrun a randomizer. I mean, speedrunning should be fun. It's not about like, is this game possible to speedrun? Like, I love heavy RNG games, and randomizers is just a really heavy RNG game, basically.
I think, like for example, people do randomizer races where they've basically have mastered the craft of taking a game ROM and coming up with some seeding code that everybody can throw into their randomizer ROM maker or whatever they call these things, and you throw out, you get 10 people in a race and they all have the exact same randomized seed. So they're all facing a randomized version of the game, but it's all the same. So all their skill at what to do first and how to rule things out. And this also became, I think, the Legend of Zelda 1. I've seen people do these crossovers as well, where you can enter into and out of both games, NES Metroid with NES Zelda, but they've also done the Super Metroid and the Link to a Past.
Yeah.
I don't remember what they call those when they're morphed together. Do you know what those are technically called?
No, I don't really know
I don't
what they're technically called.
But anyway, so yeah, we've gone a long way with creating different ways for people to have fun, and I think that's extraordinary. That should continue to be encouraged. I think it's really neat. Like, I never got into like Dragon Warrior Randomizer. I played through one once, and my friend was over and he wanted to show me how to do it, and I guess that's just not the game for me. I know a guy, he does a randomizer on he does Final Fantasy Bingo. I'm not quite sure exactly how it works, but he takes a randomizer and
who is that guy? I know I usually watch him as well. He's pretty big.
Geyer?
Yeah, Geyer is the one I watch.
Yeah.
Entertaining to watch.
Very, very chill. I don't know half the stuff that's popping up, and like, I've never been like part of what the stream is doing. So like, he has chat commands and he's doing the bingo thing and he's doing these seasons, and I don't really understand everything that's going on. His chat is filled with bot data from the game, and it's really technical, and it's probably really neat for people who are really into the game and know what they're doing. I just like the voice commentary and the game music, so I hang out sometimes. He streams more at night, and I'm sleeping at night right now, but people like sometimes make their whole stream, like that's like part of what they do. That's like part of what they're known for and what they do, and I appreciate that from afar. I can't see myself being able to do that with a game.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I can't focus on just one game randomized.
Yeah, that's fine. Everybody has their own likes and dislikes with games. I like a variety of stuff, and I think for me that's what kind of lures me away from being stuck with one game. That's probably why when I speedrun a game, I don't do it for very long. I don't. I think the longest I ever sat with a single speedrun was 3 months, and that was when I was going for the partner push 2 years ago. And throughout the summer, for like 100 days, I played nothing but Castlevania 3 Alucard route. And I didn't stop until I had gotten the world record in both the US and Japanese versions. That was probably my biggest grind on a game, the longest thing. But we know some runners who this is what they do. Lack Attack has been working on NES Zelda 1 for many years, and people just get so good at this stuff. It's just very impressive. I really can't and haven't. Now there are some games where I've probably been involved with because maybe I just happen to have gotten the world record and kept it for 5+ years or something, but that doesn't mean that I was like actively working on the game. And very rarely did I even go back to games after I played them. Like NES Castlevania was an exception. Castlevania 3, Jaws. So there were some of these really early speedruns, like 5+ years ago, that I came back to, but very rarely after learning a game for a deathless run or putting up a reasonable time that I'm happy with just because I'm having fun with it, and I get excited about a new game to discover and to learn about. And for me, it was just at some point I think I liked the journey of learning about the game perhaps more than the journey of I've learned everything about the game and now I'm just doing reset attempts, reset after reset, after week after week after week, and nothing really changes about the dynamic of the game. The way that I think about it, the way I play it, what I know about it, none of those things changes at all. And that becomes stagnant, and for me in a way it also makes it kind of boring. So that's why I wanted to shift from game to game early on. I played through and I beat over 100 NES games, because not necessarily because I just wanted to beat NES games. I liked the learning experience. I liked the honeymoon effect, I guess, of this whole journey of infatuation with something new, and every day was a new trick, a new clip, a new explanation for this or that, and the learning process about it just continued to be part of the gaming experience. But I think it gets to a point where you've reached this knowledge threshold, this experience threshold with it, where it just becomes reset, and it's like I'm just doing it. I'm just doing it now. I still like the music. I still like watching the split timer run. There's something about that's just really alluring. I finally got a new gold split, or what's worse, I haven't seen a new gold split in like 5 weeks. It's like I'm not getting any better at it. Sometimes you kind of get stuck, and then you have breakthroughs, and then you get really excited again, and then it's like I guess just whatever appeals to you is the thing that you should do in gaming. And right,
and I can relate to that, because I'm also a person that just learn new games. I don't really grind games, to be honest. That's why I always do these multi-game races, because I just love, like, give me 20 games, give me 16 games, tell me to learn them in a month, and I will do it. Because in like 30 days, like, you get to spend like 1.5 days per game, and in that time I feel like, okay, I get the speedrunning experience I want with every single game. And then there might be 1 or 2 games where I feel like, okay, I want to spend more time with these games, and I can do that between races.
That's one of the reasons why I actually liked some of the Big 20s, is because the Big 20 list will have like 12 games that were already on my list for ones that I wanted to learn. So it was just very convenient to learn them. And then after the race was done, I would go back to them and I would try to get a decent time in it or do it deathless or something like that. I did that with like Star Tropics. We only learned till like the third chapter or something like that. So I learned the whole game. It's actually a very interesting speed run. It's quite fun to play, really. And then
that was a game that surprised me a lot because I thought it would be super boring, but it got some really deep tech with the grid system and everything.
yeah, absolutely. Like doing things in the dark, all of that stuff had fun elements to it. So I like the being exposed to the variety of games that the competition offered. I, for one, wasn't a huge fan of having a list of 20 games, simply because I didn't have that time to put into them.
Yeah, but you finished pretty high up because you were one of those people that finished high up even though you didn't have a lot of time.
Well, that particular time where when I got like ninth or something, I was top 10, sub 4 hours, and though that was my goal, that was Big 20 number 7 or something like that. And
yeah, and I think the winning time was around 3:20, so a sub 4 hour is really strong considering that.
yeah, so I mean, I did all right. I met some of my basic goals, but I did have a full month of, without working, just learning the games every day. So I did, get to spend 8 hours or so on a game every day. And but it does feel rushed, though, particularly in the way that I want to learn games. That's why I had to go back to them after the race so I can really mess with the games the way that I like to, and do a deathless challenge or to do a decent time or something like that. But I think there was a few games that I didn't, though, like MC Kids or whatever it's called.
I hate that game.
I never went back to that game. Not that I couldn't have, but I just didn't. So I guess it still remains on my list for a past Big 20 game that I didn't play. Sometimes, even when I wasn't doing the Big 20 and a certain game was popular, like when Jaws was in the Big 20 number 10, it was like the best of Big 20s, and so they brought back different games from previous ones. Jaws was one of those games, so I thought, hey, it's kind of popular. People are going to be, playing this game, thinking about it and stuff. So I'll do some speed runs. I'll do some D-Rust, and I'll do just some speed runs on the game. Maybe people can pick up some stuff, or maybe even get interested in the game a little bit more. So knowing that people were playing a game on the Big 20 sometimes makes me want to look at games that were in the Big 20 before and just learn them, because probably more people will know the game just because of the race and many people were involved in it. Let me run upstairs real quick and grab another drink.
Yeah, sure. I will run and get another cup of coffee.
Okay.
Some coffee to freshen up your mind is great.
So there were times when I thought about maybe doing something like what Geyer's doing, and just focus in on a game and just enjoy the flexibility of it, the randomization, all of that stuff. I think it holds a certain appeal for some people. But, you know, what is it that I like? And I think for me that question also played into like I think at one time I wanted to play games that were popular because I wanted to get to know more people, and community building kind of thing became an interest of mine. I wanted to get to know more people who were as interested in gaming as I was. So I would try to play popular games like Castlevania and stuff like that. There were times where I would play a game not necessarily because I wanted to, it was like my number one game pick. Like, if there was a game I wanted to play, you know, what game would it be? And then I would think to myself, but if it's not popular and nobody knows it, I'm going to have 3 people here. I'm not going to have anybody to talk to because nobody wants to watch some crap game, you know? Like, but, you know, that's also not necessarily true. If you're well known, I mean, I watched Andrew G do speed runs on 10-yard fight. Like, who's going to sit there and watch 10-yard fight? It turned out that it wasn't so much just watching the game as much as it was just listening to him talk about stuff. You know, people were there because they liked him, and they didn't really
Andrew
care.
G is a special case because
I understand.
because he could be playing a bowling game and I would watch him just because he talks about his experiences, and he talks about the game. It doesn't matter what game he plays.
Yeah.
He talks about the games very passionate. Like, he loves playing games.
Now, one thing that I've seen along with this question of playing games that would have higher viewership versus playing games that I may want to play does end up showing up with people like Metroid McFly and Andrew G and other people who they're incredibly well known for a particular game. So if you like, I remember watching Metroid McFly when he was after his appearance on Games Done Quick. He was doing Metroid runs, and every single time he did Metroid, he would have very high viewership. Very high viewership. He was just really good at what he did with that game. But if he played anything else, like Shadowgate or, you know, just anything else, his viewership would just drop. Whether it's Solomon's Key, Shadowgate, or what have you. And I actually recommended to him once. I said, you know, once you get partner, you're partner. You know, people aren't going to be taking that away from you. So you could have more emotes, you know, just different stuff like that. And I said, whether you feel like it or not, just do nothing but Metroid for 100 days. That's it. You probably have partnership in the bag. Don't play anything else. Don't do it, even if you want to. The same thing happens with Andrew G. If he's playing Super Mario Brothers, he's got like 300 people in there, you know. But if he's playing anything else, you know, it's probably only going to be like 80 to 100 or something like that. Maybe that dynamic has changed, but I remember me and Andrew talking about it once, and in fact, he said that he was. I'm talking about what other people are talking about. I probably shouldn't, but I'll do it from my angle though. So I was thinking about when I was looking in, I thought, man, that's got to be frustrating, you know, because you have some people who are technically, if you really thought about it, maybe they were only there for the game and they were not there for you as much. You know, they're there if you're playing a certain game and they'll watch you play that game because you're good at that game. But if you do anything else at all, then they're out and about doing something else. They'll pick somebody else to play because they're just really interested in that game, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're really into a certain game, you probably want to watch people play that game and talk about that game and stuff. So, so I think there's just different relational dynamics and different styles of how people run their streams. You know, you'll have people who will fixate on a single game and they do incredibly well. And then you have people who the only way that you could potentially build viewership doing a variety of stuff is if you actually had this very vibrant personality that people just loved, like watching the Andy Social Network. I don't care what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what he's doing because he seems entertaining to me in some way, you know, with memes and voices and comedy, and you know, that's neat sometimes. You know, I'll click on a stream and just enjoy it for a little while sometimes, simply because I like his personality. That's it. You know, so if you're going to do a variety of stuff, you have to have the personality for it, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And even though I'm not like in any way big or something, I've noticed the same thing you're saying, that certain games bring in more viewers, because when I'm playing random games, I can get anywhere between, let's say, 5 to 15 viewers. But when I was grinding Ghoul School, I always had, let's say, between 15 and 30 viewers. And I can imagine if you put that on a bigger scale, like Andrew G, when you're doing other games you maybe have 70, 80 viewers, but when you do Super Mario Brothers you have 300 to 400 viewers. That might be kinda upsetting in a way, because you almost kind of feel like you're forced to play a game even though you don't really want to.
I guess it depends on what you want to get out of it. Like, for example, I deleted my Twitter and my Facebook and some other things, and because I really couldn't give myself a good answer. Why am I here? Right? So I said to myself, you know, why do I care to say something to somebody else? Like, let's say there's a controversy on Twitter, and I post, I take the side of such and such. Why do I care to be involved? Why do I even feel like I want to participate? Why say anything at all? You know, to be seen? Or so for me, I deleted all of it because I wanted to know, like, deep down, you know, was I doing it for likes and retweets? Did I feed off that? If I did, you know, or why do I care what other people think about what my thoughts are? I don't know. I just decided that I wanted to move away from that. And I think sometimes people can get stuck in the succeed as a streamer mentality. I think that the sooner that a person just, listen, if you find yourself starting to do something different than you would if you were to just not hit the streaming button at all, if you were to just have some buddies in your house and just play a game and just have some fun and conversation, you know, if there isn't anything new or different when you hit that streaming button, I think that's a good place to be. I think as soon as you start to think that my self-worth is wrapped up in being successful. Like as soon as I drop below 10 viewers, what's wrong with me? If you find a person who gets like almost like a psychosis, gets locked into that having to succeed as a streamer mentality, I think they've lost why we're here, why we hit the streaming button. If it's not just to talk to a few friends and enjoy a game, I think for some people it might turn into something bigger that's more difficult to manage. But if it becomes a thing that you have to babysit and you have to, like for me, I've always liked lower viewership. I would prefer to have like 5 people in my viewing my channel who are active in chat. We're just hanging out and talking. Then I've had over 100 people viewing my channel, and like for 30 minutes nobody's saying anything. I know they're there. Yeah. They're just watching me play the game, and I wasn't very vocal sometimes when I really focused in on a game. So I think I'd rather have the 5 with some interaction than 100 with no interaction at all, because I like friends.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And just to go back to this Twitter thing, I kind of agree there that like people should take a look at why they are there, and especially if you get into like the controversy, you gotta say your opinion about everything. Like, why do you feel the need to do so? I know I've taken like sides 3 times, and every single time it's been because I think that the person has been wrongly accused of something, or like it's just being toxic. So I feel pretty confident in myself in that way, that like I won't like share my opinion if I know my opinion won't do anything. But if I see someone that I feel like is getting bullied or something, I feel like it's my responsibility, if I feel like that person is my friend, to try to take some kind of action, just to try and show that I'm not okay with you people ganging up on a single soul, basically. And what was the other thing we're talking about?
Twitch.
Oh yeah, the Twitch thing. Yeah, and you were talking about this thing about like you want to get to the point where hitting the streaming button doesn't change a thing. I think, or I know the reason why I started streaming every day now is because I wanted a completely other effect, because I've been struggling with depression a lot and such. So when I don't hit the streaming button, I will just sleep in the sofa the whole day, just watch TV, basically just do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And now when I'm streaming every day, I feel like I have a purpose, so to say. Like I actually do stuff with my free time, instead of my life being wake up, go to work, get home, eat, sleep. Now I have like get up, work, eat, stream, talk to friends, and stream, check some, maybe watch a movie or something, go to sleep. So I get an extra thing I get to do during the day, which keeps my depression away, most of the time at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a help against loneliness, that's for sure. It's a way of doing it. Some people might like to go out to the bar, or they go to social functions, or they join clubs, chess club every Tuesday night or something. But what's very convenient about sitting down on your couch with a controller and hitting stream, even if it's just for a 2-hour block, it becomes part of the way that you socialize, the way that you interact with other people, and just meeting some of those needs, as opposed to just isolation and loneliness. I think probably does a lot of good effects for people's mental health. I've had people tell me stories of, before they really got into streaming, and they built a sense of relationship with other people through the Twitch platform and other social media, that they were really depressed, isolated, and it was almost like a life-saving thing for them. And for some people, it can really be a very positive part of a person's, daily life or a weekly life. And for that, I am very grateful, and that's one of the reasons why I hit the start streaming button myself, is I was gaming 5-6 hours all by myself, doing various games. I may have a video recording, like a camcorder, focused on my TV, and just so that I can show that I was using the real cart and everything with different stuff. But sometimes that just gets lonely. It does. It gets lonely. I enjoyed the games, but I also enjoyed some company. So when I started hitting start streaming, and there was a couple people there, for me, I think having a lot of people, like I had an early experience when I wasn't very big on Twitch, and I was just basically running Donkey Kong kill screen attempts on MAME, with a camcorder or a webcam pointing at my laptop screen. And I remember I was like 2 levels away from the kill screen, and people from the Donkey Kong community just started to flood into my channel, and I had like anywhere from 30 to 50 people coming to my channel. I've never seen more than 3, and now there's 30 to 50, because I guess for them it's really important who's going to be the next kill screener. We at that point maybe they've only had like less than 50 or something, I don't remember, and that was a big thing for them. But I remember when I got the kill screen, not only did I experience the excitement and sort of euphoria that finally I achieved a goal that I had set and worked really hard for, and I finally got it. And there was I can't feel my hands. I'm so excited. There's this mixture of whether I'm going to pass out and all this stuff, and there was that additional community element where there was instant recognition, and other people got to share in the experience. They got to participate in, or even like, I remember my first kill screen 10 years ago, and I've never been able to capture that feeling. Even when I got my first million, there was just something about that first time. And that's true. When I got my first world record in Journey to Silius, I was really excited. That's really cool. I got into world record history. Nobody can take that from me. Other people can beat the time and become a new world record holder, but I'll never lose my spot in world record history. I'm always going to be part of that, and that's what I wanted to do. But when I started to increase it, I'm like, I do it 5 seconds faster. I'm like, oh, okay. It just loses it. So I think for some people, they like to see people do things for the first time. They like to see how excited they get. Sometimes I became very vocal about how excited I was, but I've had people make comments in some of my videos, be like, wow, this guy just got the world record, and he's just like, yeah. Well, I mean, when you've done it, like I've probably increased Jaws like 20 times. At some point it's just like, whatever. I mean, this is just what I do, or and
unless you get to a new barrier, world record isn't that interesting.
Sure. But I think
No, but no, go ahead.
for me, having my chat just go crazy at the exact same time, for me, it wasn't just the excitement of that I got the kill screen, but thank you so much for all of you who are here to experience this moment with me. You know,
Yeah,
I'm not all by myself. There's 30 people saying, "Yahoo! Way to go! Huge congrats! That was awesome!" You know, and you just see this whole line of stuff that there's other people on the other side of their keyboards, different parts of the world, who were participating and sharing in that moment with you. And I think that's what the very first time that I really began to like the Twitch dynamic is the ability to bridge the distance where I could be sitting in a barcade somewhere doing a live score and having like 20 people behind me watching. You know, it's just like that, and then finally you get it, you turn around and there's like 20 people to shake your hands, hugs and high fives, and you know, it's they share the moment, and I think streaming allows us to at least tap into some of that.
yeah. I like that's a really important thing to say as well. That like how much you feel for the speed run you just did isn't just about you, but the people, the viewers in in your chat. Like like I got several world records I don't even remember, but the one I remember was the Go School record because there were like 20 to 30 people in my chat, and like and they were there, they were talking during attempts, and when I got it, I remember that I was super disappointed because I messed up a lot in the end, but still just beating the Go School record that was held by Toad, an amazing speedrunner, someone that I would never imagine I could beat in any game, but finally did, and like seeing chat go like just good game, congrats, new world record, hype and everything, just made that experience 10 times better
Mm-hmm.
because of the viewers, the ones that were speaking. So I think that's a really important point to point out, even though there are some people in the community that doesn't speedrun, but they love watching speedrunners, and those people are just as important as the speedrunners themselves. Also, I gotta say, the music has been really perfectly timed on my stream.
What music is that?
Oh, right now it's well, it's actually music from a soccer game, but it's
Oh.
really calm and like emotional music.
It's kind of like that over here too. I'm doing the Chrono Trigger soundtrack.
Oh yeah, that's a really good soundtrack.
Yeah, so I've been
So,
doing that.
so you were talking about the Big 20 and such before. Have you ever considered doing another Big 20?
Um, no. The one I did, I like I said, I wasn't working and I put in as much time as I possibly could. I probably put more time than anybody else, and you know, I got ninth place. I was happy with that. But it did feel like a lot of cramming. It felt the learning was more forced, and I didn't like the rushed kind of experience that came along with it.
Yeah, you're not really a well. Well, this might sound like 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 I'm trying to say something bad, but you're not really the kind of person that learns a game quick. You're a person that learns a game really, really good. Like you take your time, And when you start doing attempts, you really know the game in and out, basically. Is the feeling I get from you.
Sure, I'm the kind of person who will take a large rock and just drop it in the middle of the ocean, as opposed to, skipping a rock, 20 times across the surface. I like to go all in, and the Big 20 kind of feels like the skipping the rock 20 times across the surface of the water. And that doesn't mean that, one can't go back to it, but what I started doing after the Big 20 number 7 is I would look at the list and see if there were some games I wanted to learn. Maybe I'll take, that month to learn, 2 or 3 of them, something like that. That would probably be best if I were to do something like that. But nowadays, I just kind of do whatever I want, and I'm not as influenced necessarily by what other people are doing or not doing, what this event is going on, or maybe nothing's going on. I prefer to just, and sometimes I don't even know what I want to do. I don't. It's days like that, it kind of makes me, think, yeah, sure would be nice if I was doing like Final Fantasy Randomizer Bingo. At least I know exactly what I was doing tonight. But when I'm not 100% sure, even with the Donkey Kong Junior stuff, it's been fun derusting and learning, but now I need to find 4-hour blocks. And if I go over where, I don't get a game started for 40 minutes, well, guess what? I can't play, because it's going to take me 3.5 hours to finish, and I don't have time for that. So now it's going to become just a matter of, can I find a 4-hour block once a week? And like I said, if I don't get a game started, if I'm doing resets on level 2 or 3 or something like that, and I don't get something going before my first death, then, I just got to find something else to do with my time for the next, 3 hours or so, because I'm not going to have time to be able to start a new one. That's one of the problems with like speed runs that are hours long. I've always liked, and here's a new topic and very relevant, is I've always liked the speed runs that were anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes. For me, that's always been a very reasonable time frame for a game. Most of my games that I spent any amount of time on would be that much. I did do a world record in Fire and Ice, and that was just over an hour or so. But that's just because, I came up with some new puzzle solutions with the help of a viewer as well, came up with some, and I was able to just memorize the whole game, each of the puzzles, which isn't that bad when it kind of shows you what the puzzle is for like 2 or 3 seconds before you gain control of your character. It's the puzzle games where as soon as you like leave one room, you immediately have control of your character as the screen is loading. That's totally different.
Those are really rough.
I don't like those as much. Adventures of Lolo's like that. I had to create an audio cue for myself. I know some people are like, well, you shouldn't. Like we use notes and things like that. I created an MP3 file where I took my run, and then I did voiceovers, and then I created an MP3 over it, so that I named all the puzzles, and it would feed me the name of the puzzle and what the starting movements were 5 seconds before each of the next puzzles would come up. So as I'm finishing up the last few movements of the previous puzzle, it would tell me what the name of the next puzzle and the first few movements were, so I could just buffer in my movements to gain complete control of my character. I didn't like that as much because like with Fire and Ice, it would show me the puzzle for a few seconds. I'm like, oh, it's this one, and I can have time to buffer in my movements, and I didn't have to bother with any of that stuff, because despite the fact that it makes it look like I have good memory, my mind goes blank a lot.
Yeah.
You know, with sort of like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what's next. What is this? Okay, I lost 2 seconds. Okay, go. You know, that doesn't appeal to me much. It's probably the reason why I never touched Adventures of Lolo 3, because there's 150 puzzles. And, you know, I'm going to sit here and create an audio queue for 150 puzzles. Probably not. I'm probably not going to do that.
The cool thing that I've noticed throughout speedrunning is that the more you speedrun, the more you realize how good Live Split can be with helping you. Like, Live Split has an add-on called like notes or something.
Mm-hmm.
So every time you split, it also changes the notes. And I remember, yeah, I think it was when Lolo was in a Big 20. I just had like the first 2 to 3 movements on that note thing. So when I split, I could just check and be like, okay, next one is up to 2 squares left. And then I knew during those 3 movements, I would know what the rest of the movements was. So yeah, I think that it's really interesting how much of help Live Split can be, and the same goes for like cycles and things. Like you can just check, okay, I entered this door at 44. I know exactly what the RNG in this room will be.
Yeah, I never was one for having notes in Live Split, but I did use it for the first time when I was playing Solomon's Key, because there's only like so many rooms. So there was enough time between when you finished a stage before you did the other one. So you actually had like what 10 to 15 seconds in between every puzzle to look over at Live Split and be like, oh, okay, this is the one where I'm holding left. That's cool. I like that. That's very convenient having notes like that. The most note intensive run I did was when I did an RNG manipulation run on Dragon Warrior, where I finished the game in like under 30 minutes. I did 28 minutes or something like that. I don't remember the time, don't quote me, but I had to have notes for everything. Even when once you get to Charlotte Castle and you go underground and you have all the stairs and it's all dark, because normally you have a torch or a spell called Radiant or something like that, you know, but you skip all that stuff. So you're doing all this in the dark. So I created a map, a visual map, and then put how many times I have to bonk, like 3 bonks on this one, 2 bonks on this one. So I could walk, you know, to the wall. I can hold right until I hear bonk bonk, then hold down, then go to the next bonk, and it'll tell me how many times I bonk 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 bonk. You know, the 3 times, and I hold left, and I can just kind of visually trace myself and listen for the bonks and get it all to correlate, because you're doing it all in the dark, you know. That was probably the most note heavy intensive kind of run that I've had to do, was to remember enough when I needed it the fastest, but also be able to look up the things that were most pressing. So Dragon Warrior manipulated run. Final Fantasy is like that too. If you want to do a manipulated run, everything you do on
done it a few times, and it seems like really rough, and you gotta have a good memory as well.
Yeah.
My memory is horrible, so I even had to use notes when I did Section C.
Oh yeah, that one too.
Forget up or down, up or down.
Yep, I had to have notes for each of those, and I was always glancing over at my notes.
Yeah, the funny thing was, I tried to look at the notes for the next portal when I entered the last one, and I was like, okay, it's down. But then when was going to go down, I was always like, okay, double check. Okay, it was
Right.
down.
Don't double check right away. Do I have time to double check? You know. Yeah, because you had to like stand on the red ray just so that it would take you at the earliest possible moment.
Yeah.
But you know there was some waiting there, but you know you had to find very strategic moments to glance over at your notes and hope that you look at your notes at the right spot. You know, there's been times where I'm like, where is it on the paper? And I'm rushing. I'm like, crap, I couldn't find it. You know, and I would lose time, but eventually it all comes together, and you get a run that you want, that you're reasonably happy with, following the notes. And
yeah, I remember I did that run when I just had one monitor. So, and I was playing emulator. So I had to make my emulation window smaller than usual just to fit the notes on the screen as well, and make my live split smaller as well, just so I could see my splits as well. So I had to organize very precisely where to put every window.
Yeah, streaming troubles. I think that's another thing I like about games, is that they're all a little different. There's some similarities between them and things that you would need to do, like having notes or having to feed yourself information somehow in some way to remember this or that. And I think having, you know, that variety, that like that too. I think not just always learning something about games and being part of that process, but being able to move from different styles of game so you don't get burned out. Like if I was just doing shmups all the time, I'd probably get really bored with it. I would I would need some platforming in there. Like right now, one of the style of games that I really like are games like Ori and the Blind Forest and the Will-O-Wisps, or there was Hollow Knight that came out. That was beautiful.
Very artistic, pleasing games.
Yes, the art is otherworldly. The ambience, the music, the soundtracks are incredible. The dynamics of them look really neat. You know, Celeste was one of those games that appealed to me.
Yeah.
It never appealed to me as a speed run. I've seen people speed run that, and they're using the keyboard, and they're like, you can watch the inputs go, and I'm like, it looks like you're writing a novel, you know, with those inputs, and it's that never really appealed to me. I don't think I would even be able to get very good at it. I said that on a person's stream before. I'm like, I know my limitations. I probably couldn't get very good using a keyboard playing this game. I just couldn't. And they're like, oh, you should say that. That's so negative. I'm like, I know my limitations. I know that I wouldn't get very good. But when I did just a blind playthrough of it, I really enjoyed the challenge of trying to figure out how to do the different rooms and everything. So I've liked those style of games because there's something about the game that continues to change. You know, the same thing with like Super Metroid, or these more like Metroidvania games where you get different abilities at different places, and then you can revisit places you've been where there's a ledge that's too high you couldn't get to before, and there's just different stuff like that. I think is really neat. Having that progression occur within the game itself, where and also just exploring it and just having fun with it became something I really enjoyed. I'm really looking forward to Silk Song, which is the second Hollow Knight game to come out. I really wish they would do a third Ori game, but you know, spoiler alert, Ori became a glowing light that just sits in a tree at the end of Will-O-Wisp, so I'm not sure if they're going to do some sort of prequel or they're just done with making Ori games.
Well, you know, money always speaks. If it can make money, they will find a way to make a new game.
Sure, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure they made plenty of money with the Ori games. But I started really liking those games where um, I get to explore, I get to think, like, there's a ledge here. I think I could get up there, you know, and then you start troubleshooting and trying to figure out, you know, I think I could do it with the things that I have. I've gotten to like ledges and stuff where later on I found, oh, that would have been a lot easier if I just had this ability over there that you're intended to have to get it. But yay me, I got it before you were supposed to. You know, I found a way to get it, and I just liked that. I just like it.
Yeah, I think that's important with like games that is exploring, that also rewards you for thinking outside of the box instead of being like, you have to have this power up. But you can also get it if you're really stubborn. You can really do it like this, but it might require like 3 to 4 frame perfect inputs or something. Just barely enough to get up. Like that's something important, because if you're playing a game where you're allowed to explore, but you notice when you explore, you get nothing for it, except that you get to know like, okay, I need this item here, I need this item here. It can get kind of dull to do the exploring. Then you just go and try to get every item and then start exploring.
Yeah, I mean, every style of game is not going to be for everybody. I know for me at least, I started like, I one time said on my stream, "Oh, I'll never play a modern game. You'll never see a modern game on this stream. You'll just never do it. It's just forever retro." You know, but then I started, you know, looking at some of these games and trying them. I'm like, this was actually pretty fun. And so, you know, I was willing to pay, you know, 10, 20 bucks for the game or whatnot, and play through it. And then it's like, I get to the end, and it's like, oh man, I'm done. Yeah, and then, you know, I look at the speed run of it, and it's all just clipping into the terrain and, you know, saving it, and then, you know, loading it, and it places you, you know, like you've clipped into the wall enough to get to the next save point, and it's just a constant clipping into the wall to be close enough to the next save point to get the save point, restarting the game, and it's just a series of restarting the game. And I thought, well, the only time I ever did anything remotely similar to that in terms of like saving the game or restarting it would be on NES Dragon Warrior, where you had to do a frame perfect text box clear out of the throne room, and you could tell whether you were on the right frame based on the, you know, the movement of the characters outside you got out of the throne room. Well, actually, you could tell in the throne room itself whether or not. So you would watch the movement of the guards, and then outside you can see them. And if you didn't get it, you could reset and you can start back up, because it all had to do with that text box clear as to what frame you were going to be on, and that's how you manipulated the whole RNG. So the idea of like saving it and resetting it so that you know exactly what frame you're on to do the next string of manipulation from the throne room, because they were always done from the throne room. You would manipulate, and then, you know, you would die to go back. You would save it or whatnot, and then you would hit reset. You bring up the save point on the game, and that was actually part of the speedrun process, was the saving and restarting of the game. But you only did it maybe 3 or 4 times or so for it. But yeah, when I look at some of these other games like Ori, the speedrun is nothing more than just clipping through stuff and restarting the game. that would be less of an interest to me than
Yeah.
what I like. The first playthrough, man, I'm looking forward to the next game that that just hooks me in, and I just stay on it for 2 weeks and I just mess around with it. I think Hollow Knight did something a little bit unique, where the skill level was the skill window or the ceiling was so high, with the different challenges that you could do, like doing this special fight 10 times in a row, and every time, you could get hit 3 times before you die, and then you got to do it without getting hit more than twice, and then you have to beat them without getting hit at all, and it just continued to have increasing difficulty, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. It kind of gives, where I can spend 3 hours doing the same fight over and over again, so I can master it at a supreme level where, I mastered the RNG and the safe tactics and maximizing my damage per cycle and this, that, and everything else. That's cool. That's neat. Ori wasn't like that, so hopefully Silksong is going to have some dynamics like that, because I know people are going to play the crap out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I was more for newer games as well, but I think I'm kind of same way with speedruns as I'm with playing new games. I play them for 1 to 2 days, then I'm like, okay, it will sit in my Steam library forever.
Well, we could become friends on Steam, and you can gift me all the games you don't want. I'll have them sit in my Steam library for you.
Yeah, sure.
If you want it back, I can gift them back if it allows me to do that.
Yeah, I didn't know you could gift games. Ow, damn it, cat was biting me. I didn't know you could gift games that you have bought.
I think you can.
Oh, cool.
I know you can buy games that you gift to people. Like if you're friends, you can gift them when you purchase them. But as far as I know, I thought that you could take a game that you've played a lot, and then you basically just give it to somebody else like you were giving them a cart. I don't get to play it anymore. It's not like you get a copy of it. It's you become the owner of the game, and then only you can play it through your Steam login, and I wouldn't be able to play it anymore.
That's cool.
I don't know if they allow, like, if we had an off schedule and we could just shift it back and forth, where we're using a different save file, and we just got to make sure we shift it back so that you can play it on your off days when I go back to work.
That would be abusing the system.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not intended. I think it's if I own a game, I should be able to give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
If I wanted to, but I would no longer get to play it. So, but don't quote me on that. I just thought that was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think I wonder what's the newest game I have in my Steam library. I gotta check that. I'm trying to see here.
I'm trying to think of the first Steam game that really.
I got the Sega Mega Drive and Genesis Classics, but that one I didn't buy. I got it from what's the channel called? Speed Gaming. Because I participated in something. Oh yeah, the latest game I bought was Among Us, and I played that for I probably played it 3 times.
Yeah, I've seen some people play that. I don't know what the interest is in that one. But
it's really fun if you play with 9 other people over Discord, because it's
sure.
Basically it's have you played the Mafia?
No.
Well, basically there are 8 people that are the good guys that gotta fix the ship, and there's 2 people that are the bad guys. the bad guys can kill the good people. And when you find a dead body, you can report it, and then you discuss and try to figure out who the two imposters are, and you try to vote them out. And it can get really heated discussions among friends and stuff when you play it.
I see.
Really, the biggest part of the game isn't the game itself; it's the discussion between the game. So it's basically the game is only fun if you're playing with fun people.
I think that's one thing that draws people in with modern gaming. Like with retro, it's just you and the game.
Yeah.
Like if I'm playing Donkey Kong Jr., it's just me in the cab. That's it. But being able to play these multiplayer games and connect with and have dialogues with other people and be on teams, I think that's pretty neat. I haven't gotten involved in doing any of that. I know that my son likes Fortnite and Apex Legends and like Call of Duty, Modern Warfare and whatnot, but I've never gotten... there's probably something to that, you know, where instead of sitting and playing a game and talking to your chat or having conversation with people on Discord while you're doing that, you're working together collaboratively on the same game. Probably adds an additional element of interest for some people.
Yeah, I mean, I play World of Warcraft Classic, and I basically just raid, and that's like play with 39 other people, and that's a lot of fun to play with that many more people than just sitting alone. But this same thing goes there, that the game isn't what makes the game fun. It's the people you play the game that makes the game fun.
Yeah, there's good and bad, I think, that goes with that. I remember I was playing Hearthstone for a little bit, just learning what the different card dynamics are and doing some of the card puzzles that they had. Seemed pretty neat because it was more like puzzle based and finding out what the best solution is for what's on the board and what's in my hand. But when I was doing versus against other people, you're actually playing a live person. So it was my cards versus their cards, what they know versus what I know. They try to rank people and stuff like that. And there was a chat function on there. Now I remember this guy sent me a friend request after a match. So I'm like, oh cool, he must have had fun with it, you know. So I connected and he gave me this like really seething, horrible... No, like he beat me, and all he did was like gloat about how badly he beat me and how stupid I am and whatnot, and then he immediately blocks me so I can't like report him. So I was like, what? So like that's not nice. I couldn't even, like, because I was blocked, I couldn't even search or go through the process of blocking the person or you know, reporting them, because I couldn't even find them. Like I couldn't even bring them up because I was blocked. And I thought, well, I guess there is some bad things that can happen with those sort of formats. I think it's neat to be able to chat with other people. I remember playing some of that with Yogi, and that was fun. But for the most part, you know, you have to kind of have good boundaries, and you gotta, you know, take some bad with the good, I guess. And some games like that are more widely viewed, like if they're like within the top 5 you know, played games, like Fortnite or something like that on Twitch, there's probably going to be an interesting flow of people in your chat, people sending you friend requests and things like that. It just adds an additional dynamic of, you know, having good boundaries and just be willing to deal with that. It's not so much like that with retro games because there's no in-game chat, and for the most part, people in retro don't generally enter into people's chat and just blast people for playing Zelda or something. That doesn't happen a lot.
No. Yeah, I've been trying to get people to play Among Us with me at some point, but most people are not willing, or maybe they are in way different time zone than me, so they can't play with me. But I hope at some point I will get to play with the speedrunner people, because I think that would be a lot of fun, because you get to learn about them on a different level, because most of the speedrunning people I consider friends, I just know from speedrunning. I don't really know them from like outside of speedrunning, except a few I've met on during ESA, like Soda, basically the Swedes, the Norwegians, and some. Yeah, I met Yogi at one ESA, and that was really interesting. He is basically the same guy that he is on stream in real life, which is really weird but interesting.
Who is that?
Not Yogi.
Okay,
Yogi the
yeah.
monk.
Sure. Yep.
Like he was this super calm person in real life as well, and that was really interesting to see that he didn't have a special persona when he was streaming. He was just being himself, unless he was putting on a persona during the whole of ESA, but I don't think so.
I think what you see is what you get there.
Yeah, and same thing with TMR. Like when you see him on stream, you might think he's overplaying his character, so to speak. But who he is on stream is really who he is in real life as well. Like he's this really over energetic person that loves to be the center of attention. Just a really fun guy to be around.
Along those lines, I've had people ask me if I ever planned on going to any particular event at some point in the future. And usually what I tell them is that I probably wouldn't be, the same person, because when I'm in groups, I normally just listen and watch. I'm a watcher, I guess. I just... if there's like one-on-one, I think I would probably become more vocal and interactive. But if I'm in a group of 3 or 4, I just watch the other 3 or 4 interact with each other. Unless they try to draw me into the conversation and ask me a direct question, I'd probably just observe and listen. So I said I probably wouldn't enjoy that as much. Probably being in like a side game room where me and one other person's playing a game or something, that interaction I think would be better, as opposed to having to deal with multiple people dynamic, which I'm not as good at, So I normally told people I probably wouldn't, mainly because I would probably seem a little different, because I'd be more quiet. When I'm in my basement, I'm on my own stream, I can just do and say whatever I want, and I have more control over what's going on. It's not like that in real life. There's just more dynamics to it.
Yeah, I probably said the same thing you were saying now until I was at my first ESA, because I really didn't want to go to live events or anything. I just wanted to sit at home, play games, because I'm probably a really different person in real life, because I'm like you. in big groups. I rather just sit and listen. And like also with my autism, I get really tired when I'm around a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So like an ESA is like, I think 12 days or something, and it's basically 12 days where you're never alone basically, and that's really taxing on myself at least. But after being there once, first time I was only there for 4 days, I believe, and like it made me realize like, okay, maybe it's more taxing to be around people that doesn't share your hobby, your interest, your passion. It gets a lot easier being around a big group of people that actually understands what your passion in life is.
I think that's another element. I think a lot of people who connect with each other on Twitch regarding certain games, a lot of them have seen each other in real life, so that they have that extra layer or connection where, like, they've been at a Games Done Quick with each other for like 5 or 6 years, you know, different stuff like that. Social anxiety. Well, I think there's, I know there's some people, they really thrive on interaction with other people. They really thrive on it. If you take them and put them alone in a house, they probably get, you know, but when you put them in like a group or a crowd, surround them with people, it just energizes them. But for me, you put me in a group, it just zaps.
Yeah.
It just zaps me. There's, and it's probably because I take more of an intellectual approach to things than a relational one. I'm approaching it and I'm constantly analyzing the variables going on with everything. So if there's too much that's going on, there's too many variables, there's too much stimulus, it becomes overwhelming and taxing. Just because I'm just constantly trying to assess, okay, is this a good time to say something? Is this a good time to say something? No, we already passed that point where it'd be awkward if I went back to that now, and everybody else has already moved on. And, you know, I'm constantly assessing that stuff. Now, somebody could say, well, you're putting too much thought into it. You're thinking about it too much. Well, the problem is that that's how I approach things. You know, that's just how it is, you know? So that's my personality. It's not necessarily something wrong with it.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing, because I do at points I do have social anxiety, and it's because of this intellectual approach to hanging around people. I'm like, what are they thinking? What are they going to do? What are they going to say? Like, I can't control this situation when I'm in a big group, and that can really give me anxiety because I have anxiety problems. So for me, I think it is because I'm like thinking too much when I'm in big groups or approaching something unknown group of people, because I don't know what they're thinking. I just know what I'm thinking, and that unknown part is what creates anxiety for me.
I did go to a live event before. It was back in, I don't remember the date, but it was probably 2007 maybe. And it was the Kong Off 3. And there was a few dynamics that were different. Number one is that most of the people who were there have already been to live events with each other. And they've also have known themselves longer online than I had known them. So I was more of a late person in joining and learning to befriend them. So when I went to the live event, you can see that dynamic. You can see that they're more comfortable with each other. They're constantly, it's like instantly, they're connecting and interacting and laughing, and they're instantly it's just free flowing and instinctual, and it's just very dynamic and flowing, and because they're already used to their own, personalities, and they've already have spent a lot of face time together at these different events. So when I went to the event, it's trying to find my role in what's already established, what's already there. I didn't want to get into the way of how people were already interacting. So I observed the behaviors more from afar than trying to interact with it. And so what I did is I tried to just go to individual people when I saw that they were alone, when I saw that they weren't, interacting with another friend of theirs, and they were laughing and stuff. I wouldn't go into the midst of it and try to share the dynamic of what was going on. I would leave that to itself. I'd find somebody who was alone and by themselves mainly, and they weren't interacting like that. There were a few people that were there like that as well, and we would seek each other out, like, oh, this is your first time too, so we were able to start on that basis, and so that's where most of my conversations and things end up occurring, was unless they invite you into what they're doing and how they're interacting, they're connecting with each other, so I didn't want to get involved. So it was more of a stand back, watch, listen, and I didn't enjoy that as much because I could feel it. I could feel that all the friendships and the relationships that were well established and were enjoying each other were things that didn't involve nor include me, and they functioned in and of themselves. And even if I wasn't there, they would still be enjoying themselves just as they were. So, what did me even being there have effect on things if it wasn't just a little bit here, a little bit there? It's almost like coming into something where, hey, this is our thing, this is what we do, and this is how we do it, and I'm coming from the outside in. So I actually end up spending most of my time the few days before the event began just throwing quarters into a machine and playing Donkey Kong. And if people came over and talked to me, it was always like, oh, you're so and so, yeah, nice to meet you, how you doing? That was fine. I'm guessing that if I were going to that event 5 years in a row, and I became part of the, oh, I can't wait to see so and so and have a beer with them, because there was a relational connection there, a dynamic personality type that you really enjoyed, and it's something that you come to expect or anticipate. That would make sense, but unless I'm willing to invest, several events for the same sort of thing, I would, like I said, I'd probably just isolate myself to a single person here or there, and find people who weren't engaged and engage them.
Yeah. And that's something that people might not realize. It's kind of expensive to go to events. Like, you're probably paying half a month salary to just be at an event for a week.
Right.
And so you really want to get the most out of it. And if you feel like for me, it's worth to pay that money because I get to meet 20 to 30 friends. But is it worth it to go to a live event just to play one game or two games? I would say it's not really worth it, unless you have the things around the whole event with your speedrunning friends and such.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I'd probably find one or two people here and there and connect. I think it would. I think it would be awkward though if I showed up at a game's done quick. Like, oh, that's Chambers over there. I just I just don't think that would be a good place to be. You know, I hope people would be. It's like part of me wouldn't even know who to talk to. I think that's the other thing. You know, um,
I mean,
right?
I would assume that some people would at least find it fun that you came out and talk with you, hang out with you. Then we both know that you're not the most popular guy within the speedrunning community, but like I still think that people would enjoy if you came out. Then there's a few extreme people that would probably get you banned, so you had to leave. But yeah,
Yeah. So the question for me is probably now just I'd probably just stay home and do my own thing and not get involved in participating in any live events anymore. The travel and all of that, constantly being around people, um, wondering, who, like, if I just go and talk to somebody, because it's going to be like high school, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, he came and talked to you and you said something back. We can't be your friend anymore. You actually said hello to him. I don't want to deal with that stuff. Like,
no,
nor do I want to put anybody in a position to, well, I either be rude to him or show my friends that I'm willing to actually make eye contact. I just don't want to deal with that crap. And I know it's going to be there, let's be honest. There's a social dynamic in there. And it's not going to be worth my time.
but are you still doing like online events? Like, did you submit anything for the Bones marathon?
No, I was banned from. I was asked to remove myself from the team, the Best of NES team, and I was also uh, asked to leave the Discord. That communicated to me that I wasn't welcome being associated with Best of NES, so that communicated to me that I wasn't really welcome to participate in any kind of Best of NES events or anything like that. So
I did actually not know about that. I
yeah,
will ask around a little bit and see why, because I
no, I
like
know why they were. I was doing a. They didn't want me to be associated with the team because the team didn't want to be associated with me. Bad Breaks and other people were getting messages. Surprise. They were getting messages about me and not wanting me to be there, and it really came like open where he was willing to talk to me about it, and just said, hey, he basically said that's just the way things are now. So, we just have to just kind of deal with it. What
yeah.
prompted the conversation is that I was part of the team, right? But I was also streaming on a different stream. But I put in a notification in the just gone live section of the Discord that I was that I was going to play on, and it happened to be the Retro Craze channel, the specific Twitch channel. I was streaming on that. So as a I'm part of I was part of the Best of NES team at the time, and just because I wasn't going to stream on my own channel, I was going to stream on a different channel. I didn't see why that would be an issue, but apparently because it's based on the person, and not necessarily. If I was doing a marathon for something, hey, there's a member of Best of NES who he's participating in this marathon or something on this other channel. It's not his own channel, so something like that can be posted. But yeah, they asked me to remove myself, and I said I give you guys props for, you know, having the dialogue and telling me why. It's the same sort of thing when I was banned in other people's channels. When I reached out, sometimes people were actually willing to explain exactly what the reason why, and it mainly was because some moderators and I talked. They expressed concern. They said it makes some people in chat feel unsafe, whatever that's supposed to mean, and so we're just going to keep the ban up, and so I wouldn't be able to participate. Well, in one sense, it makes it a little bit easier to know which channels you can talk into and which ones that you can't when you're banned. So I just unfollow and I just try to find other people. You know, that's all you can do. But yeah, I mean, you've asked me, you know, am I going to participate in these events? And it would be difficult for me to really answer from the standpoint of, well, even if I did, you know, I would have to give some sort of explanation as to why they probably wouldn't let me participate. I think the same thing would be true for what's it called? Retro Gaming Live. It's the same thing. I'm banned there too, kicked out of their Discord. It's the same stuff. So, like, why would I want to go to a Games Done Quick when, you know, some people at least have already made it clear that they don't want me around? You would think that, well, I was just trying to cause trouble by showing up, you know, or, you know, I really don't see what the big deal is. I mean, but anyways, yeah. Sorry to go down that rabbit hole, but I really couldn't answer the question without at least kind of framing it more broader as,
Yeah.
you know, even if I wanted to, I don't think that I would be allowed to participate or to be highlighted. Yeah.
But do you want to participate? Do you want to show off any games?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Okay.
No.
Yeah. I was kinda, if my section C got in, I would like you to commentate it because you know the game, but now I gotta check if you're allowed to commentate.
Right, there's that. I mean, since it's you doing it, I would definitely be more than happy if I'm available to commentate.
Yeah, exactly.
But I will also say that it's been a while since I played the game, and it would still require me a lot of brushing up to even be able to do that. And long story short, for that, it's probably best to just find a non-chambers option.
Non-chambers option. I like that word.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's really interesting because I didn't know you were removed from. Well, I knew you weren't streaming to both anymore, but I didn't know you were removed from the team.
That leads me to another thing we haven't talked about. Is, you know, some people are part of teams and some people aren't. Like, you're part of Best of NES. Best of NES was the first team that I was invited to. And I think they did that because I had a couple world records in NES games, and I wasn't part of any team, so they sent me an invite. I felt honored. That was cool. So I said, yeah, that's great. I'm happy to be part of the team, and whatever that means, because I guess that it means different things depending on what team you're in. So I joined a few different teams after that. There was another team I was on. I won't say who they are, but it was retro gaming related, and they sent me a message, and they're like, you know, we don't want you part of the team anymore. I'm like, totally understand, get that a lot. So eventually, you know, I decided, well, maybe I'll just try one more team experience, you know. So I tried to be on B42. And I think it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think it was they had where they were doing chat raids and stuff like that. I thought that was really neat, but it was mainly like first-person shooter games. A lot of Fortnite, Apex Legends, Call of Duty, stuff like that, and it was really like centered around Benda and his personality, and so eventually I just decided that, you know what, I'm just not going to do teams anymore. So I'm not gonna associate with any teams, and that's probably best for other people, so we don't have to have those conversations. B42 was willing to allow me on the team, and I was able to, communicate a few things here and there about things that had happened in the past, and the one thing I liked about it is they really didn't like the drama, which was fine. They didn't like the drama. I didn't like the drama. I don't like the toxicity kind of things that can happen. If two people are having a quarrel, it becomes a community, exhibition. I'm more of a private person. If you have something against somebody, have a conversation one-on-one. Instead of it becomes like a community event where everybody gets to participate, and that's usually not the best thing. It's one of the reasons why I don't want to be part of like social media or too many discords and stuff like that. I'll send a private DM here and there, but being part of a team or anything like that, it could be a really nice experience for people just starting out. I was able to immediately meet a lot of people by going to the Best of NES team page and see who's streaming and click on their streams. People I weren't following before, I could follow, see what kind of games they were playing. So, I mean, there are dynamics about it that are good, but just like anything, human relationships especially, the best and worst things about life happen to be found within the same avenue, and it's human relationships. It's where we get some of our greatest joys and where we also experience some of our greatest sorrows. And sometimes that doesn't feel worth it, especially when you're experiencing a lot of like negativity, toxicity, and drama. When those things are going on, it's like why? It's taking too much psychological and emotional energy to just have to constantly process all of this stuff, and it's distracting me from enjoying my games. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to have to spend time thinking about it. It's just not worth it. So let's just have tighter boundaries, and if that means we're not going to be participating in any team dynamics anymore, or I delete my social media, or I just do my own thing on my own stream and only post I'm going live in my Discord or something like that, that's probably what I'm going to end up doing, because it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to put so much time and energy into those things when I think it starts to detract from the reason why. Like when I started streaming, as I was sharing before, I did because it was really cool to have other people part of your positive experiences, and that was good. But when that element, the streaming element, the people element, starts to actually make it harder for you to enjoy gaming and why you were doing it to begin with, that I think that's when you need better boundaries, and you need to just decide, whatever people in a community want to do can do what they want. If people who like playing this game, they're the Batman community or Ninja Gaiden community, whatever they want to do it. I'm just whatever. It doesn't affect me, so it makes no difference. It's not worth fighting over. It's not worth even talking about, spending any time with.
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally agree and relate because as I've been saying so many times, for me like the social experience of being a speedrunner is really important, and like I love it when everyone is on the same page, everyone is happy, and everything just goes well. But there are times where you definitely feel like just shutting down your Twitter or whatever, just because you're getting exposed by so much drama all the time. It was like I I did a joke once on stream, and I was like, yeah, let's see how far I can scroll down on Twitter before I see a drama post or a toxic post, and I could just scroll to the fourth post, and it was like drama and toxic, and you're like, oh, this is what the speedrunning community is coming to. But it was also during a time where there was a lot of discussion and talk about certain topics.
In one sense, when you bring a large group of people together and slap the word community on it, which in a very loose sense, it's not necessarily an organized membership thing. It's more of a it's much more dynamic like that. Like different friends and connections and different stuff like that. Like, so if you like one person and this other person likes this other person, and if this person upsets that person, then then you have to not like that person. I never really got into it like that. I really didn't care as long as a person was decent to me. I didn't really care how this person or that person may have said or did this or anything else. So I never really got sucked into drama in that way. But I do know that gaming in general has always been filled with debates and controversy and conflicts between people. This was true with classic arcade gaming. And it's true for any group of people. You put any group of people into a bubble and call it community, there's such a broad range of diversity there of backgrounds and likes and dislikes and preferences and ideas, and eventually there's going to be conflicts between certain people. It's kind of like that family member. You'll cry at their funeral, but you don't want to go on vacation with them, right? I mean, it's just one of those things that some people, they just don't get along. They just don't. Personality thing, maybe their ideas, and they're very passionate about those things, and they just get under each other's skin. That's fine. You know where you need to have your boundaries, and you know how you need to organize yourself, and that's one of the things that people need to understand when you hit start streaming, is that you go from just doing your own games all by yourself in your basement or living room, wherever you are, and you enter into the public forum. Now there's people who can interact with you. You can interact with them, and not everybody's going to get along. Not everybody's going to think the same, act the same, feel the same. We're going to be all over the place from many different countries and backgrounds and everything else, and it's inevitable. It's not that it's unique to the retro community or to gaming in general. It's just people. It's just people in general. There's just going to be conflict. There's no way around it. The only thing you can do is find positive ways to maybe help mitigate the damage that relational conflicts can have on people. And that's not always easy either, because as soon as one person has a bad experience, now 3 people are leaving. This person stops liking you, now their friends have to stop liking you, and it's just a continual moving, flowing dynamic of relational connections and who is nice to whom. And see, there's different ways of looking at it. I kind of like the idea of being super neutral and just doing gaming commentary and just drawing people to your stream based on the content and the interest, and they're there for the game, because there's probably not a lot of conflict that ends up occurring as a result. But people whose streams are more built around their personality takes on a certain quality to it, you know, a certain flavor, so to speak, where more of yourself ends up being projected and expressed. And you know, when a personality is expressed or ideas are expressed, you know, that's where conflicts can more likely occur within the relational realm. So you kind of have to pick and choose the type of stream that you want to have. You know, do you have a personality that's more confrontational towards people? I know some people, they're just very blunt on stream. Very blunt. They have tons of viewers. They're very blunt about everything that they think, and it's very dynamic, and it's really based on their personality. And you know, in a way, for that works for them. Like, I remember talking to this one partner, and she said that she purposely says antagonistic things sometimes because she just wants to kick out the people who eventually will cause problems, who eventually will cause issues for them. And I found that to be quite interesting. You know, when you're like boldly yourself and you're not afraid to offend people, like, this is my thought on this, and this is how, you know, this joke, I laugh at this joke. That may offend you. But hey, I find that joke funny, so screw you. You know, so if you don't like my personality, you don't like what I like to laugh at, you don't like my humor, you don't like the way that I talk or express myself, go somewhere else. You know, and when you boldly and you project a personality like that, it's probably going to push some people away, but it's also kind of sifting in a way where, yes, it's going to kind of push away the people who probably don't fit the dynamic that you're trying to create, the environment that you're trying to create on your own stream. So it becomes very specific to your own personality. Something about that appeals to me because, see, for the longest time I tried to be neutral about everything. I tried to be cautious on how I share this idea or that idea on stream. But that brought a broad range or diverse of people to my stream, and you know, people knew who I was a lot. Like if I would have built my stream more based on my personality and was more vocal about things and didn't try to tone myself down and didn't end up drawing in people who might be offended by this, that, or anything else, it's very possible that I would have had a more of a community or a following on my channel that was more geared towards that. People are used to that. You know, like if you go to JC's channel, you know you're going to get certain types of joking, certain types of conversation ends up coming up that I wouldn't want my son listening to. You know what you're going to get when you go there. You know, it could go south very fast, you know, and it's you know, it's just what it is. It's the environment that's just created by his own personality and the people he draws there. So I kind of like the idea of not having to be professional on your own stream, where you're always walking eggshells around people and you're always having to craft your words just right so it communicates something, but it's not going to be offensive to people. So you try to cater to everybody all the time. And I meant from my own personal experience, I see how that works out. It means that, you know, eventually nobody watches your channel.
Yeah, I feel the same way, that I'm probably really well. Well, I should say I'm really careful. I always say what I think and such. But like sometimes I can get really worried, like when I'm looking up on a speedrun on speedrun.com, for example, and I'm going to mention the speedrunner, and I'm like, I don't know if this is a he or she or whatever, and like it ends up with me saying this person, because that's the most neutral word I can say, even though my standard is to just say he to whatever I don't know the sex of. And because of that, I feel like during those times when I don't know the preferred nouns or whatever it's called, I get really like worried, because I do not want to offend someone, but I also want to make sure that people know that if I misgender someone, it's not because I did it on purpose. It's because it's my standard nouns to go to, basically.
Yeah, I did recognize that at one time I started using they generally. Like if I didn't know the biological sex of the viewer or the streamer, like so sometimes there's people in my chat, they've never streamed before. I have no idea. So you can't just automatically assume that this is a man or a woman that's sitting behind a keyboard watching your stream. So at one point I just started saying, well, if I don't know, I'll just use the word they. I'll just use the word they.
That might be a better word than person.
But I don't like using they because that's a plural. So I'm running into grammar issues, and yes, I care about that. I'm sorry, but it does. I care about that. I'm a stickler for that. So sometimes I try to just, instead of using a pronoun, I'll just use the streamer's name. So I'll be like JKL this, JKL that, JKL.
Yeah.
I'll just keep throwing out the streamer name. If you do that, you can avoid altogether all sorts of issues. Because apparently, so somebody said on Twitter, several months ago, that they claimed that I had misgendered someone. I have no idea who they're talking about. Like apparently somebody at some point got offended by something I said or didn't know, and even that, like, I don't have to force anything on anybody about those types of questions. If a person prefers this or that, I'll just use their stream name. And if they don't like the fact that I'm using a stream name, if I'm using just the stream name, like, how can you get mad at me for that? I mean, you may want to be called this, that, or something else, but this is your stream name, so I'm just going to go with that. Because for me, that seems super, super safe. Because one time, this actually happened to me where I was hosted by somebody, and this person, but I'm keeping the stream name out of it, so it's hard to not say this person. But I kept referring to the person as a she, and a person in my chat said, "You think so and so is a she?" And I'm like, I thought so. I mean, they got the long hair, and didn't look like they had an Adam's apple, and I'm just trying to go about this the best way I can. Like I guess I don't know now. I mean, the fact that you're asking me that question makes me wonder. Well, I guess I don't know. Hey, I said, well, I certainly didn't mean any offense by this, that, or anything else. I just, I'm just trying to interact with my viewers. That's it. If you want to make things personal and all about you, well, go somewhere else. I'm not really interested in that.
The thing is like, say I have
I get that.
someone new coming into stream and I say something, say like I call that person a he, but it's a she, and she says, "Oh, I'm a I'm a girl. I will of course refer to her as a girl." But like if I don't know the preferred gender or whatever you want to go into that discussion, which I do not want to go into.
Then don't.
But but like as long as that person tells me like, oh, I don't want to be called a he, I want to be called a she, or oh, I don't want to be called a she because I'm a he, or whatever, I will respect that, and that's what I hope, because I will at some point probably misgender someone. That's just something that will happen at some point, and I hope they show me the same respect as I show them by saying I will correct myself, that they will also correct me when I'm saying something wrong, instead of going all angry mob.
Right, right. There was a, gosh, this was up in Canada, and I don't remember what particular law it was, but they were going to make it illegal for a person to purposely misgender somebody. So it was kind of like a compulsory speech law where that had the force of law behind it. C16? Okay, yeah, that's it. C16, where apparently it forced speech. So you had to use the language that somebody else told you to use. And if you didn't, then there was the force of law behind it to penalize you, to fine you. There may have been jail time associated that I don't know. And I don't know if this is an actual law that's still in the books or it was something that was just something that was there. But like, I think most of the time people aren't like out and about to just offend people. Like, I want you, JKL, to feel bad right now. You know, like I just had this vindictive, malicious, conniving, manipulative, just I want you to feel really bad right now, JKL. So I'm going to think of what I can do and say that would like make you feel the worse. Like I think most people aren't sitting there like coming up with this scheme of like how they're going to like injure somebody. I mean, I certainly don't, and I don't think you're the type of person who does. I don't think that most people function out of that kind of thing. I think most people are honestly trying to get along with other people. But so you have to try to do the best that you can to get along with other people, to be at peace with all people, the best and the most that you possibly can. In a way that's not going to compromise yourself, and I think that's where some of the conflict sometimes comes along, where that I think that's what ends up happening, is finding that fine line of being myself, not compromising myself, not watering myself down, being boldly who I am, championing for things that I care about, but also at the very same time make sure that everybody's feelings around me is never frazzled. Welcome to humanity.
Yeah, and like you were saying, I really hope that most people are like we don't want to hurt the other person. Like of course people will
You still there? I think I lost you there. By Dave Chappelle. Well, I think we lost JKL. That's fine. I don't know what's going on there. So I'll reply to chat here in my chat. Yeah. So I think what gosh, how do you say that? Beaky beaky, knee beaky beaky. So that, yeah, it's the idea of that people do get to be who they are and what they do. Welcome to America, you know. But there's the question of when does that end up influencing or impacting another person in society, or to what extent, you know, does a person have to participate in the other thing that the other person wants to do? That's not always seems to be a clear cut line in society when you're dealing with a whole bunch of like broad diversity of people, you know. Like people dictating how much you had to participate. Like you have to participate this way and you have to do it this much or you're a horrible person. Right. Right. At some point you have to be like, no, you can't infringe upon my own life too. Okay, I can see your video moving again.
Now I'm hearing you.
Okay, now I'm hearing you. There was something with I don't know, there's something going. So yeah, part of obviously we're talking about this because we talk about gaming, and gaming involves streaming on Twitch, and streaming on Twitch involves interacting with people and having a sense of community, having relationships, and these types of questions ends up being part of the streaming dynamic and ends up being part of the experience that we have with streaming. So some of those things certainly sees. I appreciate you guys talking about this stuff, and good to see you again. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, enjoy work. I appreciate you stopping and saying hi. I always appreciate that.
I think this is a very sensitive subject to talk about as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But saying that it's a sensitive subject to talk about can be incredibly offensive to some people, because it shouldn't be a sensitive subject, now should it?
Yeah, for me it's not a sensitive subject, because I think you should be able to talk about anything.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that you caught what I said. I said even calling it sensitive.
Oh yeah, yeah. When I say it can be sensitive, it's because it can be sensitive to some people to talk about it, but it, as you were saying, it's also sensitive to other people to call it sensitive.
Yeah, I'm just messing with you.
Like the whole thing creates a big dilemma.
Yeah, well, welcome to the diversity of humanity.
Where you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, like whatever happened to me just playing video games in my basement, you know, that was really nice. You know, I didn't have to deal with trolls in my chat. You know, I didn't have to deal with you know, arguing about this, that, or anything else that relate to like people and how they live their life or what their views are on things. Even calling it views is offensive to some people. Sorry, but you know, that's there. So it's kind of like if you choose to stream, you kind of have to accept the fact that there's going to be that additional dynamic that you might have to deal with. There's going to be people who pop up in your stream. They're going to try to troll you. You have to ban them. You like I can imagine people getting started in streaming, and they get their first couple trolls, you know, and they take it so personally, you know, like everything that somebody says, because you're not used to it. You don't have that filter yet. You don't have that fence built.
Yeah.
And you just take what people say and you just feel bad and you're like, I'm never going to stream again. That was horrible. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, when I got my first trolls, I noticed they were using like the kappa emote after everything they were saying, and then they were using the concern proj after everything they were saying. So what I did was like, okay, so only trolls will be using Kappa and concern proj. So I made my Nightbot ban anyone that used that emote.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think it was during, I think it was during when I did Section C. I think it was Spiral or someone that came in and used the concern approach emote and got insta banned, and I was like, oh damn.
Oh. Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah, I know I had a few trolls. This was probably like 2 weeks ago, and like they were obviously trying to get me to say something offensive, because they were like typing, their name was like two girls one cup or something, if you know that reference.
No, but that's okay.
Yeah, and they tried to get me to like get triggered by them because it was two people, and like I felt like if those two would have come in the first time I was streaming ever, I would probably have said something I should not have, like told them to fuck off or something.
Right?
but because of having been on Twitch for 2 to 3 years, I know that like trolls will come and they will try to get you angry or say something stupid, but that's what they want. So you need to stay relaxed and just not give in to what they are saying. Just focus on what the other people are talking about, because if they don't get any attention, they will just move on.
Yeah, there's a streamer I have in mind that if they got trolled, they'd be talking about it for like 20 minutes. You know, I mean, at some point you have to be like, you can't let that stuff in. I mean, there's a ban button there for a reason. You know, I mean, you need to just be like, oh, okay, ban, not a big deal. You can't take what a troll says on Twitch seriously. You honestly can't. You know who you are. And if you're thrown off by something like that, maybe you don't know yourself as well as you think that you do. You know? Yeah. I mean, if that's throwing you off balance, then just how secure are you? I mean, seriously, how secure of a person you are.
Yeah, of course you can have bad days. But like, if every time a troll comes in and troll you and that becomes the focus of the stream, then you probably need to learn how to handle it more than just or just have active mods that ban people, because that's one thing you gotta realize here on Twitch, that it's your channel. Like, if I wanna ban Chambers on my channel, I got every right to do so. And like sure, you can go and say like, oh, JKL banned me, he is such a bad person because he can't take a joke, but it's still my decision to ban you. Not, at least for a channel of my size, it's my decision. If I had like 300 to 400 viewers, I might have moderators taking that decision for me, but currently it's my decision, at least.
Yeah, of course, it's your channel, right?
Yeah. And I see Spiral is in my chat, so I wanna ask if I was right, if it was him that got banned by my Nightbot back in the old days.
Yeah, that's funny. Like auto ban instead of just timeout. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, Twitch has a lot of tools. And the number one I'd like to say about Twitch is, and I'd like to finish with this because I need to get going.
Yeah.
Twitch really is a broad and diverse platform. You know, when they went from just gaming only stuff to like allowing all kinds of stuff on Twitch, you know, that was a pretty big move for them. It really was. Opened up a lot of content creators to come in and you know, do their own things that weren't, you know, strictly gaming related. And it's they do want to foster a sense of diversity on the platform, and I think that despite everything that I've been through, the platform has still been good because they never banned me, they never took away my team, they never did any of those things. I was in constant contact with them, and you know, they never saw that I had done anything wrong, and I really appreciated that. I think Twitch handled it very well, and I think that just shows just how broad and diverse that they are as a platform. That they weren't willing to go that step because people were very angry with Twitch. They were calling out Twitch, you know, and they were applying pressure on Twitch, remove my partnership, kick me off the platform, and they never did. And it's because essentially I didn't violate any of the community guidelines or terms of service or anything like that. Nor did I intend to. So there's no intent. There's no actual, you know, issue there. So it's a broad, diverse platform that allows all kinds of stuff. I mean, I've seen stuff from, you know, from dancing to art to music to games. I've even seen like church services and Bible readings, and I've just seen a broad range of all kinds of things going on the platform, and I think that's what they really want. You know, I think that's what they want, and that's been a good thing in general. It's been a good thing. I mean, I remember when they were just gaming only. I had a friend who he actually got suspended for 3 days because he put a webcam on himself shoveling snow. You know, I mean, now you could do that with the in real life. So it's kind of funny to see just how that. But you know, that also made having to regulate everything perhaps a little bit more complicated, a bit more difficult onto, well, how far can you go with art and body paint? You know, before it's like provocative and half nude and, you know, the site turns into something else. You know, I mean, they had to draw some real lines about what type of content and what are the stipulations on behaviors, you know, what people can and cannot say or shouldn't say. So, I mean, I actually feel bad for, you know, platforms, really, you know, because you have to kind of like deal with all of those factors, and that's got to be tough, dealing with, you know, a broad range of people and broad range of content like they do on Twitch. But I've always been happy that with the ups and downs of my Twitch experience, I'm still here. Twitch is, you know, that they never came knocking on my door and suspended me for a couple days or gave me any warnings for this or that or anything else. And I've been very appreciative of what they have been able to do for me and keeping my channel and all of that stuff. So a little shout out there for Twitch and apparent diversity, you know, apparent diversity there. So I think they're less concerned about what happens on other platforms. Like if two streamers really got on it, were fighting through tweets and stuff on Twitter, even if their name was the same as it was on Twitch and they have their channel link attached to it, to their Twitter accounts. I think they're more concerned about what ends up happening on the platform itself, so they don't care necessarily about Discord messages, Twitter DMs, or Facebook posts, or anything else. They don't have to answer questions about what's going on outside of their platform, and I think that's much easier for them to address. This is your platform. Deal with your platform. If something happens on your platform, then you can address it. But most of everything I've experienced that relates to Twitch and my channel and everything has actually been outside of Twitch. There's been some people I've banned and I've reported and stuff like that, but not that many. Most people don't seem to misbehave on the platform itself, because I think people know that they're probably going to end up losing their channel. I know somebody, they end up losing their channel because they got mad at somebody that was trolling them, said something that they shouldn't have said, and they were permanently banned off Twitch, so I think they're more concerned about their own platform here,
Yeah, and I totally agree with, like, Twitch is an amazing platform because it gives basically anyone a possibility to do what they want, and gives also the viewers the possibility to look at anything. I remember when Bob Ross was big on Twitch, and like you could go just look at Bob Ross paint for 2 to 3 hours and just enjoy that.
Yeah.
Or you could go and look at someone playing the piano for several hours. That's something you can't do on TV or even on YouTube. Usually not on YouTube, but sometimes there might be videos like that. But like Twitch really gives you as both as a content creator and a viewer the possibility to watch or create whatever you wanna create. And like it is like you say, I think Twitch handled the situation really good. I see you're getting a lot of spams. Do you want to become famous now?
No thanks, I'm okay with not being famous.
Like 3 people at the same time. I've never seen that before.
It's all
No,
that
but
notoriety.
yeah, Twitch has been an amazing platform for me, like just both as a viewer and as a streamer. I never had a problem with that. Even when Twitch accidentally sent me 500, was it 500 or it was a lot of money they accidentally sent me. And I was like, I contacted them and was like, you accidentally sent me this, and they were like, oh yeah, that's not your money. Can you refund it? And I was like, yeah, sure. So like even at that level, Twitch has been really good towards me.
Oh, very cool. Well, I guess on that note, we talked about gaming, talked about streaming, chat dynamics, relational dynamics, all related to gaming and streaming and everything else. And over the last 2 chats we've had, we've covered quite a bit of material. 6 hours.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun just talking to you. I still feel like I could talk to you whenever, because like we can talk about anything. We can talk about games, we can talk about, well, maybe not politics because I just don't care about that stuff, but like we can talk about anything. So if you ever feel like you're bored and I'm just doing a just chatting stream, just say, yo, can I join? And you can join.
That's cool. Well, I appreciate the invitation, and likewise, I'm pretty open about stuff, so I don't do the just chatting streams very often. Somebody was asking me. Well, today I'm ending the stream now, but you know, I've been playing some Donkey Kong Jr. on the arcade. I don't plan on playing anything on stream today. I just had this 3-hour block for just chatting, so that kind of took the place of playing games today, really. But no, I do have NES games. I got about 200 of them, but I stopped collecting them. I was collecting them. A lot of times I just wanted a game. Maybe if I had beaten it, or maybe just because it was only $5 and it's nice background. It's really nice background. So hey Bruzy, welcome in. Yeah, JKL is hanging out.
This is my NES collection. Multi-game cards. well, it's Famicom, but still. And yo, Brushy.
Yeah, so that's all I got for today, friend. I appreciate the conversations we've had. We focused on gaming and Twitch dynamics, and I think that was good. There's no end to things that we can talk about within those spheres. I don't really picture us having conversations about philosophy, culture, and politics, because I'm guessing from what you've said that you may not be as interested in those conversations, and can be more
well, philosophy isn't that bad to talk about. It's mainly that I don't really get into politics, but like culture differences I think is really interesting, like something that Americans find completely normal, Asian people might find really bad, and the same thing around because of cultural differences, like different morals and such. I think that's really interesting topic, to be completely honest.
Yeah, the way I normally look at it is that politics is actually just downstream from culture, and culture is just downstream from philosophy. So really, politics is just how philosophy influences culture, and how culture creates these relational dynamics, and how exactly do we manage ourselves in a civilized manner, and what particular policies are best for us as a people, and so on and so forth. So it all comes down, stream to questions of politics, which is probably like for me, I was more interested in looking at philosophy and stuff during my 20s. I didn't become interested in politics until I was in my 30s, and it wasn't until then I actually saw just how intertwined all of those things were, because most people fight about things in politics and about different policies and stances on things because it relates to questions of morality, and relates to questions of rights and things like that flow straight from basic philosophical conversations. So I've always been interested now, as I've gotten older, how those things have influenced the particular culture in which we find ourselves, not just geographical location, but the time, right? So the time and place in which we live, and how it has its own unique set of influences, from predominant ideas and things like that, that really raises the questions of not so much of what's the role of the intellect, what's the role of the will, what is freedom, what is you know, a good compromise, you know, and what things are non-negotiable. There's so much to talk about along all of those lines that ultimately just trickles right down from that every human conflict is essentially a philosophical conflict. All of it. Every single fight. Give me a single point of politics that people can fight about in any culture at any time, and we can trace it down to a conflict between conflicting philosophical points, conflicting definitions of terms. It all comes down to something like that. So I don't mind talking about politics because I think it's all intertwined, really. But it's true that a lot of politics that happen today and the way that it's handled by people could be very taxing and very poisoned. And sometimes it's probably best to just play your video games because I have zero influence on what's going to happen. And there's nothing I can do about it. But the one thing I can do something about, and we all can, is making sure that, you know, we're happy, that we're taking care of our own stuff, we're being good stewards of our own stuff, and we're enjoying ourselves the most that we can. And I think that's the things that we should try to focus on, and instead of getting wrapped up in everybody else's stuff, you know. If we don't have our own house in order, we should not presume to go about rearranging the world, you know. So I think if we can really focus in on ourselves and just, you know, I think sometimes things would be a little bit better. But so I do try to avoid those conversations sometimes too, because they can just draw negative attention. But I don't think we should be afraid of, you know, being able to have the kind of conversations that we want to have. So, but anyways, I digress. I was supposed to finish up.
Yeah, but I totally agree that like the part of politics I don't like talking about is when you get into the economical side of politics, because I'm not into that part of politics. Then I can of course enjoy talking about what you were referring to, the part of politics that are basically based on what your morals are.
Oh, I see. Now, just out of curiosity, like, for example, I've heard people bring a critique of capitalism saying that labor is undervalued. But that kind of becomes a human rights issue too, doesn't it? That raises certain moral questions of whether or not people are really paid what they're worth and what their the value of the contributions that they're making to a company, whether or not it's properly reciprocated given how much money the company might make. Those, you see how instantly I went from economics to a moral question that could be a critique of a particular economic system. The same thing happens with socialism, when you have lines of people just to get bread or something like that. You know, there's questions about stealing people's wealth from them to redistribute it to other people, whether or not it's the place of people in positions of power to be like Robin Hood and steal from the rich and give to the poor, you know, as opposed to other methods and other things. So once again, straight economic system, straight to questions of morality. And I think that's why even conversations about economic systems, forms of government, always trickles right straight back to questions of philosophy, about the role of people organizing in relation to the people who find themselves, you know, underneath those forms of government, and the question of human freedom and expression and stuff like that. Huge rabbit hole. We don't have time to go into that right now.
No.
But thank you for at least touching upon it with me for just a brief moment. I think I got 3 viewers, and that's probably me, JKL, and the last person who put
it
a
says
message on.
6 on my screen.
Oh well, it's probably updated over here. It says 3. Well, anyway, so I'm not going to go about and host somebody. The auto host will kick in to whoever that is. But once again, thanks JKL for stopping by, and greatly appreciate you.
Yeah. And I'm going to continue my own stream for a little while at least. Then I'm going to sleep.
Very good, very good. I'll be sleeping in about 3 or 4 hours myself. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot for coming, and as I said, it was super interesting talking.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I know you a lot better now, and like found out that you have grown from your experiences with all the things happening, and that you really aren't holding any grudges or anything against anyone. You just seem like you have accepted what happened, and yeah, kind of continue away from it.
That's what life is, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
you experience
I totally agree.
some loss, reality shifts and molds, and I was thinking about this today, and you brought up a good point. We could talk forever. You know, recognizing what reality is, resigning to what it is, and learning how to cope with that. I mean, that comes down to, you know, why living is so difficult for us sometimes. It comes straight down to that stuff. Because sometimes cold, hard reality is a slap in the face. It's more like a punch sometimes, or something that leaves you unconscious for a while. You know, yeah. And it's okay, I recognize that it's this. Now I resign to it. You know, this is what it is, and there's nothing I can do, so I resign to it. And then if I can come up with another R word, you know, then I have to just come to terms with it. You know, cope with it. It's probably a nice synonymous term with coping that starts with the R. Can't be that clever, and I got to give it more thought. But anyways, thanks for watching, folks. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Yeah, take care, and yeah, take care of your family now that they are sick, and we will talk another time.
Sounds good. Bye.
Bye bye.